anyone see my mammoth? We're back. There we go. We're on a double intro today. Dirty, dirty double intro. As a quick reminder of what the old intro was, and many, many moons ago, many, many moons ago. Jesus, didn't even show you any of the old intros, like the old guild. Do you remember the guild, Carlo? Do you remember the guild?
I remember.
I remember. Yeah, we're back. I'm still Mickey. This is still Carlo. It's been a week. It's been a week. Yeah. Shall we do the traditional news segment first before we dive into all of the other bits and bobs that we've got planned today?
Sure. It's always I never know what's going on, so you'll have to tell me.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you can work out exactly what's going to go on, right? It's not that difficult.
It's pretty big news this week, right? Like, big enough.
It's big.
There's stuff for once.
Yeah, it's reasonably big. We'll see. We will see. Ultimately, I think that's the most important thing. So, last week there was, of course, the San Diego Comic-Con over the weekend, and Simon ran a thing. Did you watch it, Carlo?
No, I was traveling. I was driving.
Yeah.
Did you?
No.
All right.
No, I did watch it. I lie. I did watch it. I watched it and it was okay. The only reason I stopped watching it actually was that I was at games night and my phone died, so that was a pain in the ass. Which kind of sucks. But yeah, what can you do? What can you do? So, we are obviously talking about the big, massive reveal, right? Basically, Simon did another thing where they had a chat, and it was interesting. The first half an hour is them talking about, like, loads of stuff, right? I mean, when I say loads of stuff, it was like all of the news and things that they should have been talking to us about anyway. And it was okay. Yeah, it was all right. I tell you what was weird though. I don't know if you caught back up on it, Carlo. The organized play stuff.
I mean, I saw the pictures. I came back and I saw the pictures, and that was the only thing I cared about, right? I saw the pictures and I saw the cards. I saw the renders. I was pretty happy with them. They look good, like and I've listened to tons and tons of their live discussions, and unless somebody wants to come in and tell me that I've missed something massive, like I came and I asked a few people, did I miss anything? Everybody said no, not really. When you've heard it once, you've heard it loads of times. Like you really have. Like they never say anything super exciting or super new. They never say things. They only show things, right? And so I got to see what was shown, and the renders look good. And obviously, we see all those units with their new rules and stuff like that with no points costs. And I caught back up on all that stuff and spoke to a few people about it, and didn't feel like I needed to wade through them. They're not. I never particularly like the interviews or the presentations or whatever. It always feels a bit weird and a bit awkward.
Yeah.
I mean, so does this, but whatever.
Exactly, yeah. But it's always more awkward. I know what you mean. It's like it always feels more awkward. I don't know if that's just their demeanor, in the nicest possible sense. I don't think they're the best. They're the most outgoing camera affinity. I can't think of the word now, but they're not the most kind of like acclimatized, I think, to the whole digital online presentation style of thing. That doesn't mean that they're bad at it. It's just it's clearly not their forte, and it's clearly not what they're in the company for. But you still got to respect. I mean, I respect them doing it at all. But that doesn't mean that they're actually good at it. It's not. It hasn't got the energy. I mean, anyone who's ever seen the Warhammer community stuff that they do, the energy of the streams is really good. They're upbeat. They're always kind of like, "Pow, we've got this. Pow, we've got that." Whereas the Seaman ones always kind of feel, "Yeah, we're doing this is the next cool thing we're going to talk about," and it's like, well, just don't care. Um, but but yeah. Anyway, so we've got a load of images to go through. There was a chat about organized play. They say organized play is coming, and they've got loads of plans for organized play.
Plans.
I mean, I know that they even admitted it. They said that organized play they couldn't do anything with it in lockdown because organized play wasn't happening. Slight caveat, kind of was, um, from our perspective. The the thing that really bugged me was they were like, "Oh, we're going to release it, but it's about the right time to release it." And some places have, and some places haven't come out of lockdown. And it's like, the right time to release it is letting people know that there's a system there for when they come out of lockdown. Like, the right time to release it is now, because they can go, right, well, we can put these plans in place so when we come out of lockdown, we go straight into it. Yes, Australia's just dived back into a very heavy lockdown over there. Some of the places on that kind of like area of the world all have things, like Singapore, I believe, and Indonesia has as well. But the point is, you dive straight into it. You come out of it and dive straight in to those things.
Yeah.
America's should, I don't want to say America should get it first, but America aren't in it. So why not use them as a test base for it? Run a system. Does it work? Iron out the kinks. Get it sorted.
Well, I mean, America are getting the back to play, and only America.
Yep.
So that's that's pretty frustrating. That's a bit annoying, particularly. So I understand that stats is slightly, it's slightly UK centric because obviously, just the people who watch. It's obviously English language centric. That's a part of it, but the community, in every way that I've ever measured, is significantly larger in Europe than it is in the US, and that's despite, but and that significantly larger than North America. That's Canada and US together. In every way that we can measure in terms of people running tournaments, playing games, all these things, the game is more popular in Europe, despite the fact that it gets no support by comparison. And so it's very frustrating that they continue to not support it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an odd one, isn't it? I don't understand their whole perspective on. I could talk about it for a long time. Community outreach. It's really not something that they do well at all. And that would include any aspect of the community, not just what we do, but obviously everything else as well. It's very much backdoors. You get to know the people by knowing the backdoor routes rather than the front door or easy access stuff. We've talked about this a lot. There's no clear. Someone asked about it on Facebook, right? There's no clear how do you become a playtester. There's no clear you apply, we check. That
Yeah.
sort of thing. That's true of a lot of places. Playtesters generally don't have these kind of like application things anyway, but actually a lot of the good ones do. Yeah. Anyway, yes, that was all. Honestly, go and look at it if you're interested in organized play and what they're discussing. It sounds like, again, that they actually haven't got solid things in progress, or they're in progress but they're not really sorted, and it just seems to like
Yeah,
every
so I
year of
mean,
work.
all
It's
indications seem to be maybe that like we shouldn't expect anything until 2022, right?
basically, which just feels like they have wasted 2020, not us. That's disappointing. Right, we will dive into the actual things though, and then I've got a random other piece of news which is not directly related to Song, but I bet you any money you like that nobody here has seen this next thing. So check this out. I know, right? This is what happens, fingers in many pies and all that. So anyway, first thing, we have the Greyjoy silenced men, the slightly quiet men.
Not making me think, man, I desperately have to get Greyjoys right now.
So the bit that I don't really understand is that if these guys are 6 points, they almost price out Reavers, almost, because of the 2 better morale. They have exactly the same attack profile, minus the potential +1. So they hit on a 3+ base instead of a potential 2+. They come with exactly the same Sundering, and then they also come with basically a better version of Vicious, and it also is a panic like damage limiter, like unyielding. So like there's this weird thing where I just think these are better in every shape and form than Harlaw Reapers as well. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Harlaw Reapers have got maybe like, oh,
At
we can heal
6.
2, or we can take 2. So if they're 6 points, I don't think you'd ever not pick these over Reapers.
Yeah.
Which either means they're a character unit, which is possible, or they're not a character unit, and it's like, well, you pick these every time at 6, or they're 7. And at 7, they're like, eh.
I think, yeah. So it makes me feel like they're probably 7.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly it. They're probably 7.
Yeah, I don't. Well, people are saying, yeah, you're saying they could be a character unit. I don't know their background well enough. I don't know where these come from.
Silence
So
Men. Oh, you've not seen that. You've not read their books, have you? I forget. The Silence Men are Euron's crew, where he cuts all the tongues out. They're the crew that travel with him to the far east or west. I can never remember where Euron went.
well, if they're a unique unit, they can be 6. That's
Yeah,
okay.
it's
Like,
6. Yeah, for
I'm all right
unique.
with that. But especially when you look at like Eddard's Honor Guard, are
Brilliant.
Nobody complains about Eddard's Honor Guard as like, oh my god, look at this unit, it's busted. But I mean, for 6 points, it's pretty busted, right? If you
Pretty good
could
unit.
put 4 of them on the board, you would. But don't worry, it's a unique unit. And I mean, Bone Lords Chosen deserve to be that, but they're not. So, just yeah. Make them a unique unit at 6. I'm happy with that. Make them a non-unique unit at 7, and they're not worth talking about.
But interesting nonetheless. It's good to see that Greyjoys are already getting the unit coming out and getting some love. And that's one thing I will say about this particular stream that they've done is very good. And I do feel like they've listened to the community on this aspect, and they've provided something for everybody. Nobody was left out.
Okay,
So
but that's odd because they specifically said that they're going to move to quarterly releases where they focus on one particular faction.
yes, so they clearly aren't.
No.
That's the moral of the story. Anyway, we'll look at the second thing that came up, and I believe this is I mean, Dan, our mate Dan plays Stark, so I was playing him at the same time this came up, just about to. These bad boys came up. The House Stark, Karstark Spearmen. We saw the name of these like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this is a really weird unit. It's a 2+ save if it has an activated unit of 7/7/4 Spearman style. The Spearman style, attack profile. With also stand your ground, which is absolutely fine ability to have for free. I would never pay for that ability. It's a weird one. But yeah, they're obscenely good if they're not activated, but are kind of pointless if they're activated, which makes me think you want to not activate these early.
Well, I mean, if you compare them, I know it's not, they're not like changing the game or anything, but if you compare them to Lannister Halberdiers, you've got the same stand your ground, you've got the same attack profile, you've got the same save and same morale. You're identical, except you swap Sundering for Bulwark formation.
Yeah.
And Halberdiers are in there. Some people can use them. I mean, Bob, they can't be 5. Like, on that direct comparison to the Halberdiers, I would rather have Bulwark formation than Sundering, and I've just named a unit that everybody's all right with at 6. No way can this unit be 5.
No, it's stand. You lose set for charge, sure, which is I guess a big hit. But yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking Stand Your Ground was set for charge.
Yeah.
No, yeah, okay. Yeah, a little bit. It's more defensive. Sorry, I had those two as the same thing in my head. Yeah, no. You're still just swapping like ability for like ability. No way can these be 5 in my mind.
It's what's weird about this is that it wants a really defensive. Like, I tell you why I don't like the sound of this unit is I can see this unit being um like a Ramsey commander bunker, with horrific visage, and you just the first thing you do, um, is oh cheers Florin, you made me just a little bit happier on a Monday. Um, uh, the Cast Spearman, you can just like march forward onto an objective on an early round because you can do that with the new game modes,
Hmm.
and then just stand there and go, oh, I've got a 2+ save. You notice it's not perform an action, so you can still activate and pass with them, and they haven't performed an action. Therefore,
Oh, that is weird. So you can't attack with swords, you can't maneuver and stuff like
no,
that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember it now as it's Donal's ability, right?
is the old Donal card, yeah. So the weird thing here is that you put Ramsey like horrific visage in here, and you just go right. I'm a 2+ save, 6+ morale, where you don't gain any charge, flank, or rear bonuses against me if you come in on your own, and I've got horrific visage. Come and deal
Hmm.
with me. Like
Yeah,
it's it pushes the game to this like what we've complained about a little bit with 2021, this potential for a non-play game, which is just
yeah.
weird.
But
Um,
but the non-play game is massively in favor of having a commander in you, right? Like
yeah,
having a commander in your unit and being able to say, do something about it. I'm scoring 2 points a turn is the dream situation. So yeah, I think at 5 they would be crazy. They would just become the go-to command bunker of everything for Starks in the game. At 6, I think that they're an absolutely fine command bunker. I think that they're a bit boring and don't do enough as a generic 6 point unit without anything else going on. Unless, at that point, what are you gonna put the old classic hardened? You're gonna put hardened in there, in which case, maybe this unit can stand its ground against everything, but that's back to this idea that like units are generally overcosted for their defensive abilities.
yeah.
Like good players are just like, well, that's a defensive unit. Ignore that one. Go and win elsewhere on the table.
Pro, what is always true well, I've said it multiple times. I like to say it quite a lot. Proactiveness is always better than reactiveness in nearly every circumstance, um, and especially if reactiveness is not flexible. Reactiveness has to be flexible to be comparative. Things like counterplot is a good card because you don't use it on one thing; you can use it on whatever thing that you believe is the strongest. But it doesn't mean it's an amazing card either. It's just very good, um, because it's reactive but flexible. Stuff like
Yeah.
set for charge is reactive, but it's not as flexible as it could be. They changed it so it's more flexible with the flanks, thus making it a better ability. Not just because it's flanks, but because it's harder to navigate around and play against.
Yeah.
But it's still weaker than just proactive abilities.
I'm not a Stark. I'm not into the aesthetic. I don't like those guys. I think they look weird to me, but that's just me. That's just me. I know some people have been desperate to get spearmen, just for there to be spearmen, for them to and that they've got these like wooden bulwark shields, which are a little bit fantasy-esque in terms of like their square shape and design, as opposed to being more like a proper kite shield, rounded at the top and pointed at the bottom. Um, but there are some things which will make people happy, but I feel like they're just way bulkier than I think that they want to be.
It's similar to what the she bears have come out as, though she bear sculpts are very bulky, quite nice sculpts I might add, but very bulky sculpts. I think this is the new take on Stark, because if we go back, if you remember the old Stark Sworn swords, they were like the opposite. They were almost like stick thin. They were just like, "Oh, I'm here."
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so
I,
yeah,
I like the she bears. I don't like the Karstocks.
that's fair. We will go on, and in order of reveal, I believe these guys came up next. Correct. Carlo, it's one for you. The House Clegane Brigands, the cavalry unit. What do you
Yeah,
think? What do you think?
pretty nice models.
Four completely
Um,
different sculpts, we might add. Again, they're doing this with all the
yeah,
cavalry. Four unique sculpts.
yeah. Really like them, particularly the guy. Like the mix and match of it. sword, axe, flail, bit of this, bit of that. Um, very lightly armed and armored, and movement 6. Mm, eh, it's wish listing, but I hope they're 6 points. If they're not, they're not better than Hedge Knights. Like they're just not better. Like they're just not better. They're worse than Hedge Knights. If they're not 6 points, they're 7. And if they're 7 points, they're worse than Hedge Knights in almost every way, in my opinion. I know that their damage is coming from panic-based stuff. You got a lot more combos, and that kind of stuff plays into the Lannister deck. But there are a million ways inside of Lannisters to generate panic damage. Hedge Knights are our go-to way to get cheap, actual direct damage, sundering, vulnerable, these kind of things. And so, yeah, I really hope that they are 6. We're not scared to talk about the leaks here. So similar to the way that the Tyrell Lance, light Lance, are leaked at 6 points, right? Like it's not an impossible category. I mean, there's screamers, there's all sorts of stuff. Screamers, outriders. There's plenty of cavalry in that category, and I think that they match closer to them. They are pretty good at 6.
I think they're very good at 6 in Gregor lists.
Yeah,
That's the problem, is that they're almost like you could run Gregor in whatever. I don't really care. Sandor in whatever. I don't really care. And then 2 units of Clegane Brigands and just be like, oh yeah, I have just anything makes a charge or anything can attack. And you just go aggressive as all hell.
Maybe, but I've looked at Gregor, like, there isn't a huge amount to the Clegane keyword. Like,
No,
actually, like,
not hugely.
Like, it's not it's not as powerful as I thought it was going to be. I started looking at lists, and I was really looking at whether or not I wanted to put Sandor. Like, where was he going to be? And I looked more and I looked more, and then I was like, you know what? I don't need him. I don't care. Like, these units don't need to have the Clegane keyword. So yeah, I do think, say they're 6 points, you've got some problems which are, they are so much better than Mountain's Men at 6 points, for example, and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is a balanced 6 point unit. I'm saying I hope they're not 7, because I don't want to field them at 7.
That's the problem. They're in a weird spot. I think it solves a problem though that Lannisters haven't got or haven't really had a solution for, which Hedge Knights did, as you say, already kind of solve. A cheap, fast unit, and this is fast.
Yeah.
This is moving up to the it is joint fastest unit in the game without buffs.
Yeah,
12
I
inches
feel
before
like
you do anything.
the more we talk about it, the more they're going to end up 7, but I don't want them to be.
Of course you don't. You're a Lannister player.
No.
But yeah, no.
But they look nice.
They do look nice. They do look really nice. But Carlo, we get, not only did we get some Clegane Brigands for you to have a slightly fun time over the weekend when on your own in the privacy of your own home. You get to look at these guys as well, and I'm pretty sure this was a good 15 minutes of just of alone time for you, right?
These models, I mean, I feel like the guy who's fencing's a bit weird, but like they're just dudes. Like I just fucking love these models. Like they are what crossbowmen like should look like, in my opinion. They do really, really perfectly fit the aesthetic of, like, I'm a crossbowman, but I'm not flat out ranged unit.
Mhm.
And they feel so much more like your D&D heroes of, like, I'm a D&D hero who can shoot, but you know what? Like, I also, obviously I'm not just going to stand at the back and do whatever. I can also, like, fight. I don't like their rules. But the models are great.
The models are great. The models are great. The there's nothing inherently wrong with anything on their card until you actually get to the special rules bit.
Okay, so I have a problem.
Go
Right?
on. Go on.
We've got a crossbowman unit who are willing to get in there and mix it up, fight up close, and all that kind of stuff. They're the perfect and only people who should have rerolls to hit at short range. Why are they the only crossbowmen who don't reroll to hit at short range? They're the only crossbowman unit that should ever be within short range. Why have they not got that rule?
Maybe that would be considered too good. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe okay, but like,
But you are right.
I
Well,
mean,
why do the others have it and this unit doesn't? Like,
yeah, why have they not got it when it's the thing that would it's the thing that would help push them into being happy to be in that range of mixing it up and fighting and doing whatever.
do you know what? I mean, I will say this as a free folk player, right? The thing that makes me kind of scared, more so, it's less true with Brathians because you have less options to rock this, less options to use it. But the regroup special rule is kinda stupidly nuts.
So I agree. I do actually think that the regroup rule is the one thing. Like
It's a
what
saving
I see
grace,
this as, I see this as a melee unit. This is a melee unit
100%.
that gets to shoot if it doesn't want to charge. Right? Like
It can
really, it's
soften a
almost
target up.
similar to pyros like that. Like pyros are actually a melee unit which you take a shot with now and again because you don't want to charge in. Maybe you can't get in there.
You can soften a target up if you need to. Like if it's got a retaliation ability, you can shoot the sundering crossbows in and go, look, this is not a terrible attack. This is actually a fairly okay attack. I'm going to do some damage. If I can take a rank off you, like all of a sudden you're now, I charge in. If I don't kill you, I can retreat off and I get to do any healing of any damage I may have taken. And if I do kill you, then great, fun times. Let's go.
Absolutely. I mean, that regroup, if you're on one rank left, you're going to heal 4 models, right? You're going to
Yeah.
heal an entire rank, and you're going to do that off of making an attack and then retreating. Yeah, that attack's going to be pretty crap because, you're attacking on last rank. But, correct me if I'm wrong, there's barricades that can make you
Attack at max ranks?
attack at
Yeah.
full attack at max ranks, right?
Yeah. Base
So,
deck.
I think I find this unit really, really hard to place. Like, I do think that it will be tough. And the more I think about it, the more I'm just want to stick Bron in them and just be like, this unit will do everything. It'll do everything. I'm just going to walk it up the board and I'm going to say, right, I'm going to start shooting you. And then as soon as you charge me, I'm just going to say, all right, well, I'm off, and then.
You could, like, legit put the 1 point Dario Nahara's attachment in this. Who gives a shit if you take wounds on rolling ones? It is irrelevant. Like, this is the thing. The stupid thing is, like, if anyone thinks this is not 7 points, you're wrong. This is a 7 point unit. Um, the way that Simon do these things, it's a 7 point unit. The 6 movement combined with the 5/6 stat line, which is kind of standard for crossbowmen, except we see 5/5 in other cases. It is categorically better than Lannister crossbowmen in pretty much every way, outside of
Yeah.
the rerolls and the long range, but who cares? This is a 7 point unit, and
Yeah.
that
I
straight
mean,
away.
Simon generally overcost having like multi-use, right? To having a non-dedicated kind of role, multi-role. Being multi-role, they generally actually overcost, not undercost. And these are absolutely multi-role. Like, if anything, they're the most multi-role thing I've ever seen, which I
Hunters.
don't like, which makes me fear them because I've always seen multi-role overcosted and undervalued and not actually performing that well.
I think
I'm
I think
even scared there'll be
hunters.
8.
I think hunters were the only thing that would compete with this because I think hunters were better in 1.6. Well, hunters 1.2021 are equivalent anyway. I think hunters are the only unit that I could even remotely equate this to in terms of its ability to do multi-role.
Yeah.
and we see how effective they are in Night's Watch in 2021. That's got nothing to do with hunters. That's entirely the deck and port. So yeah, cool.
The Sentinel as well. He's an absolute dude. Look at him. Look
He's
at
a
that
dude.
guy.
That's a
I'm
great
never going to
sculpt.
field him. I'm
He's an
never
absolute
fielding
great
him. But
sculpt, though,
like,
isn't he?
but look at him.
If
Absolute lad.
if you're playing a ranger, like 100%, if you're playing a ranger in D&D,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you just take one of these models. You've got 13 in the box. Take one of them out. It's fine. You've still got a unit. Yeah. Cool. Right. So we've had enough of Carlo having fun because Carlo can't have too much fun. One episode. Let's stick up this unit here now. We've got the Targaryen's Hero 2, Drogo's Blood Riders, who all look a lot older than I thought his Blood Riders were. I don't know if that's just me.
Okay.
I always thought his Blood Riders were not young, but they weren't elders. They were just strong warriors.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, you said earlier that I haven't read the books. I mean, I have. So what I have done is I've listened to the first audiobook. And so, well, interestingly, I think that it was odd that Jorah is quite specifically pointed out as like one of his blood riders, right? So he is the fourth blood rider who isn't here because he is Jorah. One of them isn't a Drogo blood rider, right? And we believe
Yes.
that Drogo will make up Drogo's blood riders with 3 of these models. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we think that they're going to get a unit as the 4 of them, or is it Drogo's blood riders or 4 attachments?
I think it's going to be Drogo's Blood Riders as 4 models that require you to have Drogo in the army, not the unit. You can attach Drogo to the unit, of course, or you run them as the attachments.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know why you would sell a 4. I don't know why you would sell a unique 4 model unit that requires an attachment to run, because that's almost like the Kingsguard isn't 8 Kingsguard with Joffrey. It's 7 Kingsguard with Joffrey, right? Like you would just sell an alt, like wouldn't you just sell an alt sculpt Drogo in this system? Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, you get the attachment Blood Riders, and this is where I got really, really sad with something that Michael Chanel said, which you won't have realised, Carlo. Each of the Blood Riders has an innate ability as an attachment that means the unit that they're attached to can't become weakened.
Okay.
If they're 1-point attachments, which they could well be, character attachments are looking like 1 points for some factions, like the Greyjoys. That's really kind of... I don't know if it makes them playable, I don't know if they're going to be picked up a lot, but if they have any other abilities as well, they are going to be strong picks.
Yeah, I mean, if you have other abilities on top for 1 point, then that's really strong.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel worth 1 on its own, maybe.
Probably not.
No, you know, like, because your problem is that like you put them in a unit for 1 point. Well, I'm just going to weaken everything else. Obviously, maybe it is your main offensive damage output unit. You stick them in vets or something like that. But like, still, you know, it's not like I lose that weakened. But if you're then going to pay 4, 5 points to put them in every single unit, so that I have nothing to weaken. 4, obviously, presumably there will only be four of them.
Yes.
If you paid 4 points for that ability across your army, then well, all right, fair enough. You can have an unweakenable army for 4 points. So at 1 point by itself, I'm cool with it. At 1 point with something else, I'm very nervous about it. At 2 points with other things, I'm thinking, well, nobody's paying that much point. Nobody competitively is buying. Nobody's buying cavalry attachments of 2 points. Nobody.
Can I just point out, Charles in chat, Weasels just said the unit also has it, but it's on the back of the card. What? Why are we putting rules? I mean, adaptive. I can understand that. Why are we putting rules on the backs of cards now? Come on. That's really
Because there's not enough
annoying.
room, Mickey. We can't limit ourselves to that size
You are
there.
right. But to be fair, I'm glad they are like at least expanding out and putting rules if they need to be on the cards. But it's a bit frustrating. um,
To
but
be
it,
fair, does the rule cavalry really need to be there? Can we not just define cavalry in the rule book?
yeah, I know. Um, but yeah, it's they have Warcry as well, and Warcry is a very good ability. We talk about that a
Yeah, Hawkeye is a
lot.
great
Like
ability.
Fueled by Slaughter, just healing wounds. You
These are
know.
very hard to place in terms of point costs. I've seen people saying 7, which I'm like, what? You know, like I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm asking a lot for brigands at 6. You want these at 7. They have to be 8 or 9. Like they have to be, right? Like Jesus, look at them. The question, yeah, there is a big question. If they're 8, are they better? Are they better than veterans? And I think the answer is yes, right?
Yeah.
Like between Warcry and not being weakened and that kind of stuff.
There was a can I just point out there are 3+ armor save,
Yeah,
which is just
there we go.
nuts.
And they still move 6. They're still movement 6.
Oh god.
I feel like that morale 5 though, I don't know, I guess they've gone with a theme and they've stuck with it, but that morale 5 is starting to make a mockery of like of screamer morale, of outrider
Yeah,
morale. It's
100%.
like so like just you're born Dothraki and that's it, you're brave. And there's no there's no more amount of bravery that a person can ever gain through experience or like bloodthirstiness or just being like one of the greatest fighters that ever lived. You're just born that way, and that's how you stay.
Maybe the thing that they slightly concerned about maybe is making them 4+ morale if you included Drogo in the unit, put them down to 3, which would just be
Yeah,
like silly, you know. Um, maybe good thing, but really really silly. Uh, yeah, I
yeah.
mean this unit is really the models are lovely. The one thing I will say about their sculpts, I mean, Simon really and Dark Sword miniatures, they really really need love and are really good at doing horses. Their horses
I
are, on the
feel
most
like
part, great.
the
In my opinion.
poses are a bit weird. I feel like this is a model that I have to look at in my hands
Hmm.
and turn it round and see it from a few different angles. They all feel like they're all pulling. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sold yet. I'm not actually sold on these guys. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just like it's not quite hitting it for me.
Hmm. Osiris says an interesting in the chat. Yeah, they are actually the tankiest cavalry unit in the game,
Yeah.
as their base.
So, like I say, I don't have a problem. I don't think that they should be better than 5 morale. I just think it's now looking even more stupid that basic Dothraki cavalry are 5.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, isn't it? Um, all right then. We'll move on to the next thing that was revealed. It was the Night's Watch Hero Box 2. Ah,
I
the
know.
meme is over. The meme is over.
Or either
Um,
that, or they're just letting us all know that like
is it officially
none of
announced
these
now?
none of these boxes are coming out until 2025.
Is
Like,
this officially announced? Is this? Can we all confirm? Is this the official announcement? Because it was on a stream. It wasn't in like Comic Con. They didn't talk about it in like a Gen Con event or anything like this. It's officially been said on a recorded piece of material that I don't think has been deleted yet.
yeah, somebody get a clip of them pronouncing this as Night's Watch Heroes 2, and then don't let them forget it if they ever try and backtrack.
Yeah. Um, that's all right. So the thing
The
is,
elk, I mean, the
yeah,
elk and cold hands is
yeah. I think Sam reminds me. I think when I look at Sam, I think less of Sam, and I think more D&D adventurer, like generic adventurer pose, torch in one hand, sword in the other, like backpack. It's just the classic.
Yeah, he does look like a bit of a shit D&D adventurer from like 20 years ago. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Back
exactly.
before D&D D&D adventurers became like cool with like all sorts of stuff going on, absolutely epic. No, yeah, he's just like more like about to go into the first cave he's ever found. D&D adventurer.
Ooh, I've got my meals in my backpack and I'm all green behind the gills. Yeah, no, he's really. I mean, Craster's the same model. Bit disappointed there. I mean, I'm not disappointed that much because obviously a lot of people already had Craster. The whole thing, Craster's actually had a bit of a shit time. Night's Watch obtaining Craster has been a shit time. They all
Yeah.
bought him solo, then they understood that it was coming out, and then they were like, "Oh, free folk players, can I buy yours off you for like £15?" And it was like, "What?" Um, and then it was like this whole cyclical thing of like, and then they just didn't get him, and it was like, "Oh, Craster's not available in Night's Watch anymore." Why? Like, why isn't Craster's rules out for 2021
Yeah.
now? Because every Night's Watch player has him, and then they're like, "Oh no, you'll get the rules when
Not
the
even
20."
a different model.
And
It's
it's
not
like
even a different model.
they
Same
they
model.
they are literally withholding the rules so you can buy the box. It seems that feels like a dick move.
Yeah.
No one's going to turn around and not buy this box because they've already got Craster, are they? I mean, oh, Night's Watch Hero Box 2. I don't want the other 5 models. I've got Craster. I'm good, thanks. Bollocks. um, it's a bit. Yeah. But Benjen Stark, he almost looks a little bit too royal and thin and
So
live.
just
I don't know.
let's just check, right? Third guy in from the left,
Yeah, this
Benjen,
guy is Benjen.
right? Okay.
Yep.
Without getting into some, without causing Night's Watch Heroes Box 2 to be delayed by another 5 years. Who is that guy?
That's Cold Hands on foot,
Right? Yeah.
and that's Cold Hands on
Okay.
elk.
Okay.
Benjen,
So
Cold Hands,
Benjen
Cold
and Cold
Hands,
Hands are
Benjen.
definitely both in the box. Whether or not they're the same person is not confirmed.
So we go back to an interesting discussion. Should we shut down talk of leaks because it potentially ruins Winds of Winter? Who cares? We literally waited a month and a half, no news on Winds of Winter, this was still released. Like, I know people were shutting down, like, they were like, oh, the IP is going to be damaged, the IP is going to be, like, and yeah, you're right, there was a potential for that to happen. Like, no one's disregarding the fact that the leak was a bad thing in some ways. It definitely was bad. But if your argument was to shut it down because it maybe damages the IP, bollocks. Because the argument is that they've just announced it and it's still going to damage the IP because it confirms that they're not the same, or they are, or it doesn't confirm them, or whatever. We don't know. Yeah. I have nothing on that. I don't know if you're going to add anything to that, or just going to say like brush it off.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, so the thing is that so they have avoided it, right? Because
Yeah.
they don't show the rules. They have avoided telling us whether or not they are allowed in the same army, whether or not they are the same person. The leaks, according to Nob Nurb, and I was pretty sure it was this way around, that like the leaks said effectively indicate it is same person.
Yep. We'll see. We'll see. Because if this box is supposed to be coming out, they say Q3, which, as it stands, is within 2 months. Because we're basically end of the first month of Q3 is over. Basically, what 3-4 days. So this is coming out in the next 2 months, is what they're saying. Which, if it is IP damaging, like we're suggesting, and all these other things, then arguably this is coming out in the next 2 months, which means that Winds of Winter is going to have that thing confirmed or not confirmed or whatever. Like,
Oh, come off it, Mickey.
I know.
A,
I know.
this box isn't coming out in the next 2 months. And B, they're not dropping some kind of spoiler for Winter. So let's just, let's just be realistic and put the lid on that one, because they these aren't coming out in quarter 4. Forget quarter 3. They ain't coming out in quarter 4.
They might. It depends
Coming
on
to a
shipping.
Russia near you, quarter 4. That's what I'm saying.
Mate, coming to they're probably already in Russia. Russia. um, so yeah, we'll see. Should we talk about the rules? Actually, talk about the rules. We've not actually looked at these cards. We've just talked about the box because of the meme of the box. Cold Hands was actually nerfed from what we saw previously. The Raven Flock ability doesn't do hits anymore. Yeah, that's a thing, by the way, if you weren't sure. Raven Flock used to do hits, as well as take a -1 to hit for the rest of the round. Like, this is a massively nerfed ability.
Yeah.
Which shows you how busted it was. Infinite respawning, Cold Hands. He's probably 4 points. Solos typically coming up, named solos like this typically coming at 4. The Man That Rides, classic example. Dragonstone Nobles, although not named equivalent solos. So yeah.
The respawn ability is problematic.
Yeah. And you don't even come in activate. You literally just any flank, you're in.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing that devalues solos is they're normally one of the few things that you can pick up an easy kill on before, like, to like rob your opponent of tempo before we get into the meat of the game. Cold Hands will give up a VP every single time he dies, right?
Every time.
Yeah. So there is that side to him, but that's well worth having him back. So he can't be panic bombed. He's not scared of getting randomly scorpion shot like most other solos are. Yeah, okay, you might lose a VP here or there, but you're not losing activations. You're not losing control of the game. He is the most closely represented thing to what it's like to have an NCU on the board, right?
Yep.
That's what actually people seem to miss the point that what actually makes NCUs so powerful is as the game goes on, they just continue to be efficient and continue to have big plays. So I'm really nervous if he's 4 points. Not, Night's Watch don't need that power piece at all in a million years.
But it would make sense. Like, it would just point out, it would make sense. It would, like, if you release this at 5 or let's say 6, right? It's not going to be 6 points. But if it comes out at that points level, it almost doesn't make it into the game because it's being outpriced and outplayed. And this is actually where we talk about Night's Watch balance. It's not, and this is where people get it so wrong, right? Night's Watch are not overpowered, but their balance average is clearly higher than the balance average of other factions. So even if you take a bad Night's Watch list, it's still okay. It's what we saw from 1.6 Starks. You could take some really bad 1.6 Stark lists, but like me and Carlo literally showed on the random builder, right? You pick Starks and it randomly builds a list for you, it's probably fine. Whereas if you take a 2021 Night's Watch list and have it randomly built, guess what? It's probably still fine. I wouldn't say it's going to be amazing. It's not going to be the negative play experience that people complain about, but it's still fine.
See, I think that I would run it for 5 points. Wow. I hope it's 5. And to answer Endline, like I hope it's 5.
If it's 4, sad days.
Yeah, it's sad times. It's just 2 conscripts and him, and hey, do whatever the fuck you want with the rest of the points because you've got so many support pieces that you can just shut down like anything, and then you've got so many points left to just make power plays. But it's just it's not.
Yeah, sad times. We see Craster coming in there as well. I like this is the same as what we saw with Zarozo and Daxos, right? He has a similar kind of design. and I like Crasters. I think Crasters is actually, I think this is just good design, right? Doesn't interact with every zone, but it's like, right, if you take these zones, you get slight benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefits are simple, right? You get to heal. Rest the money bags thing's a bit nuts. Instead of restoring runes for one unit, you get to restore it across any number of units. So the 3 units can be spread. Okay, conscripts, hello.
Oh wait, but like I know that they're not neutral heavy, but sorry, does somebody want to tell me how that works with when targeted by money bags may replace with? Are we about to just see Craster,
Stormcrows.
Craster, Craster, Bron, Stormcrow combos? Because is going to be, I mean, I feel like my instant reading of that is that I could put that onto 3 separate units that all have motivated by coin and just say, oh no, and they're all going to swap it for an attack, please.
Now, interestingly, they
Hmm.
said something in the stream which makes me think that's not how that ability works. The Moneybags ability is a replace zone effect. So when you take Moneybags, not when you're targeted by Moneybags, which is very weird. Yeah, it's a replacement, as Charles says, no longer a targeted. I mean, in 1.6 this will be stupidly nuts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a replace zone effect. Still though, I like where your head went there immediately. Swords getting +1 rank, fine. That's not OP. It's not +1 dice, which is I think is really good. Just +1 rank. I think that's a suitable buff. Fine. And +1 move with the horse, fine. Like all of those abilities, assuming we don't, the moneybags thing might be a bit ridiculous. But swords and horses is fine for me.
So if he's 4 points, right? Because I can't imagine he's more.
No.
If he's 4 points and the money bags thing doesn't work, right? You haven't got any kind of multiple effect. You can't put 1 wound on, even the less extreme case, put 1 wound onto a motivator by coin, swap that part, but still heal 2 wounds elsewhere, for example. If none of that works, I'm not taking him over other 4-point options. And that's the Night's Watch problem. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
JR, yeah, please, way ahead. Amon, yes, please, way ahead. Littlefinger, way ahead. Tycho, probably ahead. None of those are abilities. He's not bad for 4 points, but the state of play for Night's Watch is not that, by comparison, just not competitive. Not in the discussion.
Yep. So yeah, we'll finally move on from Night's Watch. We've spent ages talking about Night's Watch, like almost accidentally. Also, we randomly hit 50 viewers there, which is somewhat I think we may have hit 52. I'll have to check, right? But if we hit 52, then what we can successfully say, without any form of statistical analysis whatsoever, is that we gain on average a viewer a week, which means that, hey Carlo, we've only got to go for another, I think it's 100 weeks, and we'll beat the viewers that Simon get on their live streams and the actual live event. Cool. Let's go.
If we keep going for about 50 years, the channel might be monetized.
Whoa, calm that down. I am not ready for that level of expansion. God, 50 years. Anyway, we'll move on to what they thought was a really big reveal, and for some people it was. This is where I feel spoiled and feel a bit crap, because I already knew this was coming. Revoke Hero Box 2 is 2 giants. It's, well, here's number 1. 1-1.
So, I had an interesting thought. I had a look at these. I started looking at their cards. And I just thought to myself, like, wouldn't everybody be way, way happier with giants if they just had, like, 6 attacks and hit on 3s?
There's a base rule, probably.
Yeah. Like, why have they... like, nobody likes their rule. Do they? Does anybody like their rule?
I
of,
like
having 1 attack that, like, you know, like you've just looked at fantasy. You've looked at fantasy and gone, oh, remember their really cool giant swing ability? Should we give them that?
It's even called Giant Swing. Um, uh, it's I do like the wound mechanic, the auto wound mechanic. I do like it. I don't like the variance of the whole thing really. What I don't like more so with the Giants thing is that basically they're all or nothing, right? Either someone goes, just like we talked about before, either someone just goes, right, I'm going to kill the giant, and they kill it,
Hmm.
or they don't kill it, and
They
they
just say,
either failed. Like, I mean, it happened with
do your worst.
yeah,
Yeah.
it happened with the game against me versus Chris, right? He came in to try and kill it with the veterans. He rolled like utter pap, and he didn't kill the giant, but he did some wounds. Ultimately, that giant should have died. Statistically, that giant would have died from that attack, and he didn't,
Mhm.
and he got unlucky. And it was like, oh, my opponent got unlucky, and so I'm gonna do well. Is really crap design and play experience, and it just doesn't. It didn't actually feel good when it happened. I was just kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. Um, and that's personal experience maybe, but
But for example, like, why isn't there a rage mechanic just like the
berserkers.
Dragonstone Noble or Shaggy Dogs, right?
Yeah,
Like, why do they not just gain some extra attacks and attack normally? They could like give no armor saves or no allow no defensive saves or be auto wounds or be whatever
they could roll.
whatever the fuck you want.
They could roll
Like after that,
four dice on threes, with no saves, like mountain that rides. Yeah, not too dissimilar. And be 7 points then, and yeah, every wound they take, they get an extra dice. Say, there you go, done, easy. You know, attack a
so
low
much
health
better,
giant, it's gonna
so much
really
better.
hurt. You know,
So these guys might not be terrible just because like they fit into that they sit into that design idea, and it's just a better design idea.
we'll also point out that one's the tankiest thing in the free folk roster now, beating out mammoths with the 4+ morale, and with Warcry. I know Marwin said it. I see Warcry, I take Warcry. Is Warcry just become the meme of this 2021 variant? Because it's just obviously good.
Yeah, I mean, we're streamlining, Miggy. We're streamlining, aka just copy and pasting abilities everywhere.
Hey, Woman also comes with Crit Blow and Sundering, and we all love when Crit Blow goes absolutely off it, don't we?
Yeah.
That's actually the weird thing. He only comes with Sundering. Like
Yes,
he's not
but
actually
you know,
that dangerous.
no, but I like him.
Yeah,
Was
defensive
there any
unit.
indication of his points? He's
He's
not a commander, right? Are
no,
they
he's
both commanders?
no.
No.
Only the next one is.
Yeah.
1-1 is leaked documents said he was 8. Better than, like, more expensive than
Okay.
average giant.
Okay.
I'm struggling to see whether or not I could
Yeah.
pick it up at 8. I really am struggling.
Bit high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on to, of course, the kind of like massive reveal. Again, we already kind of know about this one. Mag the Mighty. He costs 9 points, and he either costs 9 points, or he costs 9 points and is your commander.
For sure. Definitely that.
Yep. He's a 9-point unit, or he's a 9-point unit as a commander.
So they're basically saying that his deck is worth a normal commander's deck plus whatever attachment abilities they give.
Yep.
To the fucking unbelievable cards, right? No? No, not really.
I mean, I won't go into the cards right now and go through them all, but
No.
I wasn't that impressed. They
No.
they say it gives you this idea that you can give like a monster mash style like thing, and you can create like people always go about, oh, elite free folk, and then it's like, oh, but it's not really elite. You've taken Bone Law's chosen a bunch of 5-point units. It's not elite. This is what Michael was saying is elite free folk, because you take Mag the Mighty and like 2 giants, and he said, oh, if you don't like painting, this is like the army for you, because you can take like 3 or 4 units on the field and a couple of NCUs. And that was kind of like where I was sat there being like, what game are you playing? Where you can just take 3 or 4 units and be like, this is fine. We saw that with Baratheons, right? We see that with Baratheons. They tried to take 3 or 4 units. Oh yeah, that's right. We see that with Baratheons. Yeah. Anyway, um,
Yeah. I can't bring together this idea that he's the same unless the deck's incredibly powerful. There's still time for that deck to be, something worth buying for 9 points plus your commander slot.
yeah.
But I doubt it.
What I actually am more annoyed by is so much so that for 9 points he's clearly better. Like he's just massively better than most of the other stuff. For some reason he sees a -1 defense save come out from compared to 1/1. He's only 4 armor, which all of a sudden for like your commander who's only got 6 wounds, who you want to control objectives with, like I feel like this is the army that you run in Fire and Blood. And yeah, it just doesn't feel good to be running this in most of the game modes.
He's not wearing a jacket. You see, one's got a little jacket on.
The
That's why
little,
he's a 3+.
yeah, the little like, yeah, the bone, yeah, that's what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Them bones, 3+.
Yeah, I
no
forgot
other
that's
giant's got a jacket on.
Yep.
Mag the Mighty not got a jacket on. Guys, here we go.
Jacket meta.
Jacket meta on you. It's like playing orcs. They've all got their flak jackets on. They're absolutely smashing it.
Yeah, the deck replace thing is good, but going back to actually my least favorite design here, I like the idea that they're changing the tactics deck. I like that as a theory. Concept is good. Execution, abysmal. I don't even need to look at the deck. It's abysmal. The reason I say it's abysmal, have you ever heard of skew lists in a tournament? If it's good, I'm just going to take this and a good like Mance list as my other list and just be like, what possible list can you take that can fight both of these things equally, where the solutions and the problems that you're being put up against are massively wildly different?
Yeah.
I
And the whole list selection at the start of the game becomes like this huge gambit if your lists are so wildly different.
Yeah. It doesn't mean I'm sad. Obviously, I'm not sad. I'm happy that Free Folk are getting it. But me and Charles talked about it a lot. One of the weaknesses that Free Folk have is competitive NCU slots. We've only got, take Mance out of the equation, we've got 4 NCUs. Like, that's it. We've only got 5 anyway, and Mance is the most popular and is looking statistically like one of the best commanders. So you've got 4 NCU slots, which means if you're taking 3 NCUs, it's not a choice of which one do you take, it's a choice of which one are you not taking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the variety, I mean, as a rule of thumb, the first thing I do in basically every Free Folk list is I add Ygritte, Val, and Styre, and then I go, this list can't run 13 points, I can only run 12, so I drop Styre down to Craster. That is literally my list build.
Yeah, I will pick up the box, I think.
Of course.
I'll pick up every box. just to play, I'll just meme on somebody with some giants at some point, but I don't think that it will either be non-existent for tournament play or destroying tournament play, just like Mother of Dragons is, really.
Yeah. So that was the end of the overall kind of like spoilers and things like that. I did listen to it back because I missed the end, as I said, my phone died. They didn't actually announce any any new faction. They alluded to it. They said there were massive reveals coming up. They said there were bigger and better things in the pipework. But I mean, like, you can promise somebody the world, and unless it's there in front of you, like, that's just like standard marketing talk, right? That is just nothing special there. What would you say overall is your opinions of that kind of like reveal thing?
That's an amazing amount of stuff if it comes out in Q3.
Isn't it?
I'll see it in Q4.
There's the problem.
And so if that's 6 months worth of stuff, I'm disappointed, right? Because that's
Well,
it's a great amount of stuff if that does come out 1 quarter after. I mean, we keep saying coming out, right? Like the UK doesn't have Q2 releases, so there's no red cloaks, no red cloaks, no hedge knights, no Greyjoy boxes outside of the starter set. I forget. No, there are Kingsmen, but there aren't Queensmen. There aren't R'hllor. I forget. Whatever.
yeah.
I find it really hard to remember because I do have them because obviously they came from Russia. But forgetting the fact that these things aren't actually like in your shop, that stuff was a good amount of stuff in Q2. If this stuff comes in Q3, then we're sort of rolling. I would like personally to have something new for every army, for my army, every quarter, as opposed to this proposed idea that you would wait 6 months or longer and get more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Q3, brilliant stuff. Q4, it's not enough for that to be 6 months worth of releases.
That's actually the biggest issue, right? Is that it's a lot to not kind of like, it's a lot of not necessarily being a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot promising and it's a lot of like stuff said into the wind, but it doesn't really mean anything. And it's more extreme now. Especially one of the things they actually said this, is that faction packs should be with us within the next 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we are still sitting here, and we believe, myself and Carlo, now we've had some. There was an announcement by a shop that we have in the UK that doesn't even stock song stuff.
Really? It's not like a. It
No,
doesn't have a community. It doesn't. You
doesn't.
don't play song there.
It
It's not.
literally has no
Yeah.
community. But they announced that it was on their order forms that they could actually order in the faction packs. And usually these guys are pretty good. They don't say something unless they're pretty sure it's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. So me and Carlo are kind of like hesitant, like maybe faction packs are going to be here in the next week or so. I'd be surprised if they get to us before the end of August. I still expect to be playing most tournaments in August without faction packs, but quietly hesitant that September, by the London GT, they will be available. We will see.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's the problem. We're not sure.
I don't think so. I'm absolutely zero banking. Like, my assumption right now is that there are no faction packs come the London GT, which is the very end of September.
Fun.
And the end of Q3, right? Like, so we're talking about end of Q3. I mean, guys, let's just put this specifically. End of Q3, I do not expect anybody to have the 2021 balance. It's not out yet. Remember, we've been talking about this balance. By that point, we will have been talking about that balance for a year. That's. Oh my god.
So,
Cards aren't changing, right?
no.
Confirmed. Cards aren't changing. I think
Stuck
some
with
people
it.
are upset.
Yep.
I'm not. I didn't expect them to be.
People are. And people are talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
people. We've talked about it a lot on the NRG Discord. Talking about bans and things. We'll come on to that later on. That's a discussion on its own. We'll come on to later on.
yeah.
But it's really, in my opinion, it's really not healthy to be talking about bans and this, that, and the other already when we're, what as they said, oh, we're only 60 days, we're 2 months into the balance. We're 2 months into the balance, and people are saying we need to ban stuff to make the game fun. Then I'm sorry, the game isn't fun. Like, that's what you're saying. As hard as that might be to hear, I really enjoy the game. I don't care about the imbalance that much when I play because I just understand that that's something I have to deal with and manage. Do I think it's great? No, I don't think it's great. But
Hmm.
that's down to me to manage that and me to understand that and me to take my fun out of the game from that. If your genuine solution is to basically say this faction can't play half of its stuff the best part of a year, and like,
Yeah,
what makes you think that 2022 is going to be any different?
yeah, yeah. Exactly. That's always the thing. Like, people always seem to think, oh, it'll be better next time. It'll be better next time. I'm like, why will it be? Guys, I try not to say like I fucking told you so, but we could bring up fucking loads and loads and hours of footage of me telling you around January time, guys, it might not be better. And you know what? I don't think it's going to be better. And you know what? In a lot of cases, it is better. My personal opinion of the total thing is that the worst stuff in the game is not as far behind the average stuff as it used to be. But the things that are too powerful are even further away from the average than before. Like the too powerful outliers are more extreme than in the past. And specifically, the play style of it is very, very negative.
yeah.
So yeah, like I I don't know why people just assumed. People hoped and assumed that the cards were taking so long because they were being reworked. But like, I really don't know why people had this idea that Simon would have decided that themselves. Like Simon never indicated that they were working on it. As far also like sometimes like I've brought up in like various discords, like and I just asked the question, like, why do you think they're working on it? And then people are like, oh, Simon care, they're working on it. Honestly, 100% they're working on it. And it's like, okay, but nothing they do indicates that they think it's a problem or that they're working on it. So I'm going to go with they're not.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. Um, Random bit of other news then. I'd say there was a bit of a surprise piece of news that most of you won't know about because some of you will know about this because you're French community related. I saw a very interesting post today from the French community. Asmodee posting, the Asmodee experts posting a post literally about all of their various different things. Can I just point out that Asmodee France and the Asmodee community in France has got very good connections with the actual retailers. The retailers in Asmodee do talk. The SongbySonefire.fr group does talk a lot with the releases, and they actually do get a lot of communication, right? More so than people say Asmodee do in general. They literally just put a post out saying, look, here's why we've had problems. Okay, it's translation from French to English isn't great. They talk about the shortage in the virus, about shortage of materials. They talk about luxury boats, as in literally the price of shipping over the last 18 months has driven up by 600% or equivalent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they talk about why that is impacting them. But we know this. I'm not saying that they're telling stuff like the point I'm trying to make.
Wait. Can I just stop? This is a slightly dodgy translation, right?
It is, yeah.
isn't actually a story of a mouse in a pot of cream, right?
No, no.
That's a French figure of speech, which Google's kind of taken a bit
Yeah,
literally, or
really, really
what's going
badly.
on there?
Um, if that is a French figure of speech, by the way, that is a literal translation, that is a brilliant figure of speech. This is the story of a mouse in a pot of cream. um, yeah, no. So they've actually, like they've actively said, look, these are our problems. This is why these things are not going well. We're sorry, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care that much that um that it's stuff we already knew. I don't care anything about that. What I like to see, they address it.
Yeah.
They actively say, "Look, we're sorry. This is why."
Acknowledgement of acknowledgement of the community's pain
Yep,
just like alleviates so much. Like alleviates so much.
it really does. Admitting that you're not listening is I don't know why they've posted random pictures of their warehouse and things. Do you want to see pictures of their warehouse? There's an Asmodee warehouse. I don't know why I
Empty.
care about that. There's an Asmodee building. It it looks like stock footage.
Futuristic.
There you go. Look at that. Pokemon. Anyway, this is not a Pokemon stream. So yeah, there we go. There's a thing. I just appreciate that way more than the streams and things. Just like literal posts, just being like, yeah, there you go. And do you know what we got? Did you see what we got in the over in the English speaking part of the world?
Was it an email saying that you're not allowed to get back to play?
No, it wasn't that bad. Although, yeah, that can happen. No, we got. Let's just find it. Here we go. Got this bad boy. Do you remember many, many moons ago, back in the day, Carlo, when Tourney Ground was young? In fact, Tourney Ground I don't think had been spawned just yet. And all of the various offshoots of Tourney Ground, like Tourney Ground 2, Extra Tourney Ground, Tourney Ground Outtakes. If you're not sure of any of these things, you need to check out our multiple other YouTube channels, otherwise known as They Don't and Exist. So here's what we got. Look at these. Big Child Creative have painted up Courtney Penrose, Marjorie
He's got a
Terrell.
shiny head.
He does have a shiny head, doesn't he? He has a mad shine. Marjorie, Elena, Renly Paramount, Loris. Loris doesn't look like a tiny boy there, as much as he does
I mean, he does a little bit.
a little bit, but not nearly as much as the figure does. Brienne, Eldon, back to Courtney. Great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love these paint jobs. Like,
They are like really good. Like,
yeah, they're honestly
I mean,
amazing.
obviously they're professional. But like, it almost feels like they're scaled up models. Like, it actually feels to me like they've got 2 times renders. Like, I could actually believe, and I have a small inkling. I actually have a small inkling that these are like pre-mold tests which are done in multi-size. You generally get pre-production times 2s times 3s.
Mhm.
I think that they actually could be them. Not It's hard to put my finger on. It's not because the painting is too good. They just don't quite feel like the models to me. Something about the camera perspective.
Maybe.
I might just be going off on like, for example, I have Marjorie. I don't think I don't think the model, maybe it's just mine. I don't think the actual 3D plastic model has that much detail in its face.
Maybe that's just how good a painter they are. They painting on detail.
That's true. That's true. That is possible. Yeah. Anyway, they're phenomenal. I think that they're better than I've ever seen these models look before.
Isn't it interesting that it took them a year or over a year, as before Tourney Ground existed, that this box came out? and it's taken them a year to share this picture.
Absolutely.
Why is
I
this the
think I think I think
communication?
Weasel's just hit it on the head.
Yeah.
Weasel's just hit it on the head. They feel like they don't fill up the right amount of the base,
Hmm,
but maybe they do.
maybe. For me, it's like I really like that. I really like to see that. But for me, it's like why is that what you're showing us that's been painted up really nicely after all this time? When I will hasten to add, we literally know they've already painted Cold Hands because it was shared.
Hmm.
Wouldn't it make more sense, way more, have a look at the awesome sculpts that we've got coming, the Night's Watch Hero Box 2, on the back of the announcement they just had? Like,
Yeah, it's more like somebody's painted their own personal army backlog rather than somebody's been professionally paid to paint some models before they come out for promotional purposes.
yeah. And I just think that the stark contrast with Asmodee, in France being like, look, we're sorry, these are the problems. And then, like, Song of Ice and Fire, the game's like, oh, here's some nice painted miniatures from a year ago. Just, yeah, like, oh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that is funny.
Anyway. Before we do anything else, Carlo, there is something I've got to do because I'm getting shouted at on on Discord by people such as Gamma. I haven't actually locked the tournament yet, and I said I'd lock it at 7 o'clock. It's now gone, 20 past 8, and it's still not locked. So I'm just gonna head over to this this tournament over here and lock this bad boy up. There we go. Keep people happy. We'll have
Seems
a
as
look at
you're on
this
the
in a bit.
page, that red button now exists, which says that you finished tournaments.
Yep.
And so, for those who don't know, the Hall of Champions is all tournaments from 2021, 2021. Oh, why can I not say that word today? 2021 balance. And as well, you get a lovely little digital trophy next to your name when you
Hooray!
win a tournament.
Should we have a look at
Uh,
your digital trophy? Because I know you've got one and you're in the
my
top
digital
8 at the moment.
trophy.
But there you go. Ah, and Lordic has one as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lordic. I've no idea who Lordic is, but he's got one, so that means he's cool. Why is yours silver? Is that
So there are bronze, silver, and gold based on the size of the event that you win. And coming soon trademark, CMON level soon, is you will be able to upload your own trophies when you create tournaments. But if you don't, it always defaults to being that bronze, silver, or gold trophy based on how big the event is.
cool?
I
That's
reserve
good.
the right to change the requirements for what makes a bronze, silver, or gold trophy
Fair.
at any given time.
So, that's awesome. Change. You also made other little quality of life changes as well, which was good. So
You can edit your account.
can you actually
That
do
one
it
has
now?
been
Hooray!
2 months in the making. You can edit your account.
Fantastic. Now, before we look at NRG2, I thought we'd just take a moment, Carlo, to go all the way back to NRG1. Do you remember NRG1?
I do remember NRG1. Yeah, it was still an exciting time.
Yeah,
I believe that people still thought that 2 versus 3 NCUs was the great battle of our age.
yeah,
There were people out there who didn't believe that Starks were overpowered.
that sounds
I
about
might
right.
even put myself in that category at that time.
Now, the real question, if we go all the way back, right, to bearing in mind this is the first Tourney Ground we ever did, right? We only got like 209 people view it, and currently only Death and Bartender actually commented on it, and they said it was a really cool thing, all that kind of stuff. All the way back in July 13th, so we're a couple of weeks out, as we know, because a couple of cancelled events and things. Was the very first Tourney Ground, back when I forgot to name them properly and say it was called Song of Ice and Fire Stats live stream. Do you remember what we covered in the first live stream, Carlo? There's a good one.
No idea.
No idea. No idea. we talked about NRG TTS League One. Obviously, it was still on. We hadn't ended it yet. It's our time to talk about that and all of the various other events that were coming up. We went through the stats like way more. We talked about all the different lists and things like that were going on, and we talked about all of the various different tournaments that were being played. And there was some there that I remember looking at and thinking, "Isn't that awesome?" So, do you remember the event where there was an event that the Germans ran for TTS? A Psychopath ran it, I think, and they basically proved as well off the back of NRG, yeah, that Starks were nuts. But also your own event, the first builder.
Did they have any particular rules?
No, not at the time. I think.
No, they just played another event, right, with just German
Yes.
players.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But then there was, of course, the first builder league, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first builder league, something that we kicked off and we were talking about running from like that week and that what was going on. Good times.
Yeah, I mean, the first builder league is still the biggest TTS tournament that's ever run, right? Like
Yep.
it got 80 people, and it wasn't perfect. It didn't have a single winner, but that wasn't the point, right? It was a league, not a tournament. And the idea at the time, it's interesting actually to look back and talk about it. The idea at the time was that the Builder League would actually become a regular thing. The idea was that the Builder League could run like every quarter, and you would only play it for 3 weeks. You would play 3 weeks of a given. You'd get given a random commander, so every quarter you'd have to take on a new faction, a new commander, and play them. And then, well, then the TSL came, and nobody wanted to play the game anymore. Was genuinely like basically that's what happened. Like, I had at the time I had loads of plans. I mean, people know that I don't actually play TTS anymore. I've never even been that into TTS myself, but I feel like Simon's biggest failing for the community has not been providing an organized structure. Call it a tournament structure, a tournament format, anything like that. Whatever you want. It doesn't have to be hyper competitive. And I thought that the builder leagues had a really good slant to them. That you're building the most competitive list you can, but that you're constantly being challenged to do it with different things. TTS is a perfect outlet for that. You don't have to own the models. And I thought that we could build like a really structured format to the way people came and played. They could drop in and out at their own leisure per quarter. People would know when the big events each year were. It still could happen, but I feel like the TTS came along and bulldozed everybody with a 9-week tournament. And then Mother of Dragons came along, Mammoths came along, talk of 2021 balance left everybody in limbo for 6 months. It can still happen, but it feels like we're starting from the ground up again. We've just run NRG2. Think how much bigger Tourney Ground is, how much bigger a Song of Ice and Fire Stats is now. And we got 32 people for NRG2, but we had 64 for NRG1. The TTS community isn't growing and isn't strong. And I wonder whether or not it has a future if it doesn't organize itself in some kind of way. It feels very much a lot of like, just like somebody wants to run a tournament, so they just come on in and just say, I'm running a tournament next week, without any kind of like thought as to whether or not that's the best thing for the community.
And that's actually, I mean, we talk about that. We struggled. Admittedly, I didn't popularize this event because we hit 32 quickly. I didn't think we'd need a huge number of people on the waiting list. And between, the last couple of days, 5 or 6 dropouts in the tournament, which it's not unheard of. It's a sixth of the event, fifth to sixth of the event, dropping out. I kind of expected that. I looked at the waiting list I had before and I was like, actually, that's probably about the right. I don't need to advertise this much more, and I've probably got enough players. But what was interesting was it's the players that are dropping out. The players that are dropping out are arguably more important than the number that drops out because it's high-profile players. We'll look at the list in a minute of players for NRG2. We will look at the lists and things. We'll go through all of that in a second. But yeah, Ariakas was the winner of that first event. He showed us and showed the community, alongside Larks, ultimately, of what those multi-dog style lists are going. Load up an old version of the site here, and you can remember. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Remember?
I do. I remember the game quite specifically. I remember the Ariakas Larks game. It was a masterclass. It was a really, really good game. And ever since I have and had huge respect for Ariakas and some of the things he's doing in this game. Like, if you don't know who Ariakas is, then you don't know high level TTS play. He's also done really well in the TSL with Baratheons. You know, he can roll with the very, very best in a completely like unrestricted format, and he can also take the things from the bottom of the pile and massively outperform the field with them. 4-1 with Baratheons into a competitive field is way more impressive than 5-0 with Night's Watch, right? And that's that's entirely the way A Song of Ice and Fire Stats is built, which is that you shouldn't, on average, be able to go 4-1 with Baratheons, and it will reward you so much more for going 4-1 than it does for going 5-0 with Othel.
The final of that tournament obviously was played between Ariakas and Stannis. Stannis came up the other side of the bracket. Do you remember that? Do you remember the days where Stannis wasn't black-pilled?
Yeah.
We still talk to Stannis a lot, and he's a sad man.
Yeah. He's gone through years of Baratheon pain.
The guy still tries.
That's why you just don't stick to one faction that dedicatedly, because you can't intertwine your own fate with Simon's whims of whether or not they're going to make your faction trash tier for 2 years in a row.
And he persevered. Man, does that man persevere? And he swapped to Starks, and then he realized that it really was just easy mode when he swapped over comparatively, and actually won the event. Like, literally swapped over for Starks for one event, won the event.
Yeah,
it was just crazy. But right, how cool would it be if we got the man himself, Ariakas? How cool would it be if we get Ariakas' views on high level games? How cool do you think that would be?
I think it'd be really, really cool if his computer would stop breaking, but yes.
Yes.
I am super, super, hopefully it will all materialize, but I believe he's been trying to put together a tactical battle report for us, so I'm really, really interested. I haven't seen the game, so I'd really be interested to see him play and see his insights on the game.
Yep. So he's used the format that me and Carlo, have been using before. Carlo's battle reports, where it gets filmed top down and then just kind of like sped up and talk about the flow, all of that. Ariakas is coming along, and he's going to be doing those as well on behalf of us. I think he's going to be talking to us and doing that as well. Game's already recorded. He's had some problems recording audio, but yeah, look out for that probably in the near future. So
hopefully,
big man himself, Ariakas. Lovely guy. Honestly, lovely guy. So we'll look and see.
Absolute master of the game.
Yeah.
Absolute master of the game.
Honestly, master.
Second only to myself, of course.
Just pretend that didn't happen. Anyway, we saw many events. Remember the Free Folk and Stark dominance, followed by, a load of events won by Lannisters because they allowed Mountain That Rides. You remember that? Do you remember when we used to have to argue that Mountain That Rides...
Yeah, that's a really nice part of 2021. Nobody's arguing about whether or not Mountain That Rides is legit. Partly because everybody's just got a different thing to argue about. People will probably always argue about something. But it's not the biggest arguing point.
So, on that note, another piece of trivia for you. Do you remember one of the things that we complained about, or the rant? Because we have a rant every episode, right? The rant that we had, or I had specifically, in the first Tourney Ground? You remember? It's a really random thing that even now
No,
still gets argued. It
no.
was.
Is it whether or not free folk can win a tournament even if they have a high win rate, or
No.
no?
No. It was whether or not two solos can fit next to each other on the front of a cavalry or an infantry tray if units are in the flank.
No.
No.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was the first Tourney Ground.
the old the old manufacturing defect. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Can you believe it that's still a discussion though? Can you actually a year down the line that's still a thing?
Yeah, yeah, mental.
God. Clearly,
Well,
it's just a small
the
manufacturing
trays
defect.
haven't fixed themselves, have they, Mickey? So you know.
No. Just goes to show that it's so much. It's a manufacturing error that they've just never deemed it important to change.
Well, they
Yeah.
can't undo it. You can't make everybody else's old trays defunct.
You can. Action packs.
Yeah, but that's different. That's different.
Hey, I'd so laugh if they brought out a tray pack. Get your 2021 trays here. I shouldn't have said that. See, we're not actually going to do it now. Jesus. Right. But yeah, we saw 50-point events. Do you remember when 50-point events were actually regular and people played them?
Yeah, yeah. That was people were pretty done with 40-point games. 50 became a pretty popular thing.
Yep. And we saw an event that I think what's his face? Carl.
Mickey
No,
said.
completely no.
Oh,
Was it
Carl.
Makista or Carl? Can't remember. But he wanted to run a 50-point event and it just didn't go ahead.
Yeah, Northern Front 2021 by Mickey Star. Yeah.
He just couldn't get the players.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? And
well, I mean, it's a TTS event.
It says so much yet again.
It is complicated because the TTS community have come so far and are so in tune with the mod, and it's very, very difficult to run 50 points on TTS, in my opinion. I'd much rather run it in person. And my go-to on TTS would be down to 30, not to 40, if I needed a change of pace.
Yes. Yeah, I actually really like the 30-point tournament that's run by the Australians. That was a really good event. Yeah. We then saw, this guy, don't know who this is, activation experiment thing that the Aussies, I believe, pioneered. I don't know. Not important. Clearly not an important winner anyway. We saw the Stats Masters. The Larks came back and beat Ariakas in the final.
I still
right?
believe that's the. I mean, personally, I think that's the highest level tournament that's ever run.
I think technically ELO, yeah, it probably.
And I think that the World Cup
Finals
might have had a higher rating. I still believe that the Masters is probably the highest level of play tournament. But that's partly because I feel like my opinion of it's tarnished though by like the existence of MOD and Mammoths. Like,
yeah, that's the problem.
I just feel like for all it for its faults, which we knew at the time, like people were so much happier pre MOD and pre MOD and Mammoths. Remember, like there were a few people, Brett, who were like continuously complaining, and I mean really like a few, about insignificant spam, right? But the casual community had no problems with it. And there were more people, a decent amount of the competitive community had complaints about Stark activation spam, Direwolf spam.
Walder and Varus as well.
Walder
Even
and
then,
Varus.
that was a tenuous.
Yeah. Then Walder and Varus, right? And then like that even in itself wasn't a thing that casual on the tabletop players really had any knowledge or experience of, because it was an extreme list style and it was a list taken to near perfection, which was crafted and honed over given months. This was not a thing that you generally had to expect to play in if you turned up at even like a big-ish tournament, 32-player tournament, and you definitely wouldn't think, I'm going to have to play this every single round. Now what we meet is people's hatred of Mother of Dragons, people's hatred of Night's Watch, and it's real, and it's way more prevalent, and it's way, way, way more common because they exist everywhere. They're so obviously stupidly powerful, and it's not a really, really specific combination of like really fine, list balance and points, and really balanced on a real deep understanding of the game. It's just put some models on the board and win 70% of the time.
Yep. There we go. That was the old website as well. Just remember the quick old website there. The lovely aesthetic. I think this is way better. Cleaner. You have done a good job there. Remember the very first time you built this website, you basically couldn't code as well.
I mean, I still can't.
Works as a coder. So yeah, I mean that's looking back at a year. That's looking back at a whole year of tournaments and things like that, and then obviously a year of the game. We started the TTS scene, and it was like the discussion of whether or not Rose Knights would be allowed because they were leaked and not like in physical hands. And now the discussion is whether or not well, I don't think that discussion's even a thing. It's like if it's on the builder, it's there, done, have it.
Yeah.
Like simple as that.
Teddy says he's been robbed because you haven't like outlined the tournaments where he did well. But I mean, like, I'm sorry, but can we look like I won tournaments with Lannisters, I won tournaments with Baratheons, I won tournaments with Targaryens. I also went 9-9 undefeated with Night's Watch, but didn't actually win the event, unfortunately. I consider myself to have won a tournament with 4 factions in 1.6. I'm looking to do one better in 2021.
Oh. I'm totally going to have to try and up my game and actually play well. Actually compete with you, because otherwise you're not going to get any local competition whatsoever. Yeah, there we go. That is all the tournaments that, back throughout the year, all the various things that we've done, all the way through from like TTS being just standees through to 3D models and all the various things that Bartender's done. Huge shout out to him and all the work he puts in there. Absolutely massive. The guild, we talked about it earlier, the guild came. It existed at the start of lockdown, basically. And then 5-6 months later, it was gone. Through various reasons. There are rumors.
I mean, it came along and then died during what's still I think the most difficult period of this game's life so far, and continues to be, which is the mishandling of the 1.6 to 2021 transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, all of the various things that went alongside that as well. The lack of updates, FAQs, anything like that. I was quite annoyed. One of the things that, going back to the thing that they talked about, very annoyed that one of the things they said, it takes a long time to put an FAQ together. It doesn't. Right? Like, if you think it takes a long time to put an FAQ together, then what the fuck are you doing? Right, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna point that out. Like,
TOs are doing it for free.
Yes.
TOs are doing it for free in one afternoon. They just say,
all you need
guys,
to do,
post your questions here. I'll come through and answer them, and then I'll put them together.
I'm sorry, but they're like, oh, it's a new design of. Don't worry, I actually quite like the new design of the FAQ and things like this. But like, in the end of the day, you don't need to design an FAQ. What you do is you have a Word document, with stuff added to it when you need to add to it. Having a nice fancy FAQ is all well and good, and yes, I understand as a business you might want to do that, but I really don't give a shit about what an FAQ looks like. All I care is the contents. The only thing that matters is the words written
It
on
is
that
here though.
page.
We haven't actually talked about it.
It
The
is here.
FAQ is here. The
Oh,
FAQ's here. It
yeah, we
is big
forgot.
deal.
We forgot, right? One of the biggest changes in the FAQ is that they changed the rules. They changed the charge rules. Just
It wasn't errata. Yeah, they have
change.
errated. They have errated. Yeah, I don't even know what I was going to say. Clarified, but they haven't. They have errated the rules so that charges now generate a melee attack action brackets.
Don't
This
generate a melee attack
isn't a
action.
separate. Okay, but they generate. I mean, does it not still say a
No.
melee attack action brackets? This is not a separate action.
No, it says the
Is that
attacker will
not
then
the exact wording?
resolve one melee attack. This is not a separate action, which is
Okay.
what the old charge used to say, I might add. Like, they changed it for no reason, and then yeah. They also did hilarious work because they've clarified a little bit around like units coming back and things like this, and they have clarified that you can have more than one commander on the board. They literally clarified it. They haven't said you can, but they've clarified that the unit does return with the commander still in it. And if the commander's still on the board, then it is. So yeah, you can have multiple commanders on the board. They clarified few little things here and there as well. They didn't clarify the discussion of scorpions and giants, which I personally think I understand what they're trying to do, but I do 100% think it needs FAQing because many people ask a question. That's an important thing, right? You don't decide.
I don't know what the correct answer is.
No, and this is the thing. We as a people, them as a community, don't decide what goes into an FAQ or not. What's decided should be how frequently is that question asked. There are genuinely questions in here which I've never heard asked ever, and yet they make it in, and I'm like, what?
Some of them are funny,
Like,
and then like they'll get repeated like 3 times. Like
we need to find
like
these.
this is like the most requested thing, and you're like, that's answered in the rules. Like it is hard though, right? Because it's in their opinion, 99% of these things are answered in the rules, right?
Yeah.
But they're not written well enough. So like it's hard to read your own stuff and be like, oh, people don't understand that. Because if you thought that people wouldn't understand it, you wouldn't have written it in that way in the first place. But still, like, yeah, where some of these questions are like, who asked that? Like, it's so obvious. Like, you know, you pretty much just written the rule book again and just said, here, it's this rule. And that's your FAQ answer. Whereas some of them, the things that really need FAQs are when 2 specific units have their rules interacting, right? Because there are no rules for how they work.
No. So here's a good example, right? I love it. They've got the 3 different types of fire in there are all literally labeled the same, right? Charlie Chaplin style moustache. No, it's just really bad. The Jade Fire, the Black Fire, I can't remember the names, I don't care. The point is the fires are all labeled, and it says, does this deal D3 plus 3 wounds for each hit, or D3 plus 3 wounds regardless of the number of hits? Which is, like, not a question you hear often, but I understand why that question is asked, because it was used to be asked about giants, right? It generates the hit, and then it generates... Right, so let's go and find Mighty Swing on this list, right? There we go. Mighty Swing. So you've got all these rules that now interact with it, and every single rule has got an FAQ, which is good in some ways. But then they're like, oh, it takes a long time to generate this FAQ. And it's like, well, yes, because you just put the same answer on the goddamn piece of paper 4 times. You could have just put that as one FAQ point. Like, I get what you're trying to do, but yeah.
Taunt.
Oh, should we find Taunt? There we go. Look at Taunt.
There it is. It's right there. Taunt went backwards. I just saw it on the screen.
Do you remember? Right? We said
taunt doesn't work on cavalry.
taunt doesn't work on cavalry, and then we got, oh no, taunt works on cavalry. Obviously it does. And then we got some high-profile people like, yeah, taunt works on cavalry. FAQ comes out, taunt doesn't work on cavalry. God, I could rant about this all day.
But I know he's in the chat right now.
Yeah.
Or he probably is. He normally is. I feel like Jesse isn't helping the case specifically on Lannister supremacy, right? So Lannister supremacy says there's a -1 with +1 wounds per number of ranks. And then they specifically said, and the question they always got asked was, well, obviously it's -3 at 3 ranks. Is it +3 wounds? So they specifically said, yes, it's +1 per rank in wounds. Card is so specific that it is -3 per ranks. And then Jesse said, yeah, but is it -1 or -3? And I was like, I mean, Jesse, you know the answer, right? Like, why stop asking stupid questions that you know the answer to? Because then they answer those stupid questions and they don't answer the real questions that we need answers on. We need an answer on whether or not a scorpion shooting a giant is 1 wound, no wounds, 7 wounds, 12 wounds. Everybody knows that Lannister supremacy is a -3 and a +3 at 3 ranks. And if you don't, then the FAQ is not going to help you.
So, he says, did they clarify what is Dead May Never Die? No. There you go. There's your answer. There's your answer there. No. They have not clarified any of those abilities necessarily, right? What's the other one? Is it Last Stand? Last Stand? Yeah, it's Last Stand, isn't it? The one where they don't die and they come back to life? Last Stand, isn't it? I'm sure it is. I'm going to have to break open the stats builder to find this out.
Are you talking about John's ability or
no?
Or Corin's? Corin's is called To the Last. I think.
The Last. You've then got where are they? Kingsmen. To the Last. Yeah, To the Last.
Yeah, To the Last.
Which is still,
and
by
Corin
the way,
has that ability. And John has a card. John has a card which he gets an attack on his death, and if he kills his opponent, he doesn't die, right?
Yeah.
But I forget what that card's called.
That's like I have a little. I don't think it's that. That's Last Stand, maybe. Yeah. So there's a bit where does this attack benefit from the abilities of any attachments in the unit? Yes, assume they were destroyed by the same attack/effect that triggered the destruction of the unit. So we can only assume that the attachment still exists for the purposes of the attack, but then does it come back to life? Because is it healing? And they specifically call out somewhere in here that attachments are not healed.
Which then comes back to the old questioning of the trigger timing of it's when a unit would be destroyed. And is that before or after the last model gets taken off?
Yep.
Who knows? Who knows?
They also...
If I already had an answer, then we'd already have an answer and we won't be asking it.
This bit is the other bit that I found very weird because I feel it very much contradicts the main rule. When an attachment with a triggered order is moved to another unit, does the order remain triggered for that round? Yes, the order has already been used. Which means that the order is it's still the attachment. It's not the unit that has the order, which is what the rules seem to imply, is that the attachment gives its rules to the unit. And you swap where the attachment is, well, that rule hasn't been used by that unit. But actually it has, because the attachment's used it. And it's like, well, so the attachment isn't actually part of the unit for all purposes then, is it? And that's an interesting one. In my head,
I feel like it has bigger implications around like things being able to be triggered multiple times, or say I'm just riffing, but like in terms of like the turncoat, and it's like more, you know, there's outright stated that a turncoat can only ever be used once per game, but if the turncoat has the ability and you have multiple turncoats in the unit, then please tell me why I can't use multiple turncoats, because you're saying that I give it to the unit. But now you're also saying that the triggering of it is not related to the unit. The triggering of it is related to the attachment. So I feel like
This is
it's not a
specifically.
perfect case because we are into the idea that the unit couldn't have the rule multiple times. But then it's like, well, it doesn't have it multiple times. It has it once, and then when the attachment dies, it still has it.
So
Has it again.
the weird thing
It's
is there
complicated.
is like, could you argue because it didn't lose the rule, it still has the same rule? So my argument would be, could I put a turncoat in a unit? You put a turncoat in one of my free vote units, for example. Then I regroup and reform and move the turncoat to another unit that has already been turncoated during the game. Would that,
Right.
because now that it had lost the rule and now it has the rule again, is that rule now used or not? And yeah, I don't know. Rules. Yeah, and this is it. This is exactly what Endline says right in chat. I feel like they wrote this thing in 2 hours. Exactly. So why did it take them 60 days to produce it? And did they really take 60 days to produce what questions were going to go asked? Because they didn't even choose questions that I think are that relevant. They're certainly off the forum.
Yeah.
So, God, I just wish they were more transparent. That's the theme, isn't it? The theme for a whole year of Tourney Ground. CMON just needs to be way more transparent with their communication systems. Across the board. For everything.
Absolutely.
Said it before, communication literally kills companies. Get it right, then you won't die.
Are we done with the news after 2 hours?
Shall we? Shall we? Yeah. Let's have a look at tournaments, shall we? Specifically, one tournament.
Yes. Let's have a look at NRG. Is it going to
32
be won by
players.
Night's Watch?
Should we see what the splits are? I'd love to click on a little thing that says stats. Oh yeah, it's not implemented yet.
Good for you.
Right. Oh, I'm just going to remove everyone. I forgot I could do that. Lockerbie, let's get rid of him. He's no good. To Winter, get rid of him. Didn't he get banned recently off something? No, definitely get rid of people who are banned. Get rid of him. Wop.
Is he in the chat? Winter, did you actually get kicked out of Facebook? I wasn't sure. I feel like your profile picture went grey, which means that I think that you have been kicked out.
I think that I don't know. I'd love to know if he was or not. So anyway, let's go through these. These are available. They're available online. You can check these out yourself. But we're gonna look at them. To literally nobody who has frequented any of Friday Night Fights or any of the weekday games that Lockerbie plays, which is definitely me, Carlo, Groose, all those. Yeah, Lockerbie's playing Greyjoys. I think everybody could have guessed that one. Tom Dyler crumbled and went for Targaryen, which I know is his kind of like main faction at the moment, because he thinks neutrals are not a faction. This is like a neutral main. Wop, he's gone for his Lannisters. I can almost tell you pretty much identically what that High Sparrow list is, I think. Actually, we have a look at it. It's going to be the High Sparrow.
Two Warrior Sons, 3 Poor Fellows?
2 Warrior Sons, 3 Poor... Oh, he's gone... Wow!
Oh,
changed it up.
Hello.
Warrior Sons, High Sparrow, Poor Fellows, Warrior Sons, Tyrion. Tyrion attachment.
Shove Tyrion in their face, counter the order within short range.
With Warrior Sons, you'll survive.
You can stop the Watch Captain, or you can stop Ready and Release.
Yep.
With that.
And Warrior Sons will survive the shots, probably. Like, they have a good tendency to do that.
Lanny Guardsman with Barristan Selmy. That's weird.
Okay, so it puts them at 5 morale, 4 morale with the Embolden from High Sparrow. 4 morale with Duty to the Crown, more likely to be passing. You've got Joffrey to always get the extra wound.
They are very difficult to shoot at because of your Lannister supremacy, So after I take and pass a test and then heal, and because of Joffrey, maybe I'm healing 2 wounds onto the crowns. Like, chances are I'm at 3 ranks, even after you shoot me with Night's Watch, right? Because Night's Watch, actually, their power isn't just like a wipeout shot. It's just like continuous barrage of like so many actions. But why do I shoot this unit? Like, it's not a commander. It can hold 1 objective for all I care. It's movement 4. It's the slowest thing you have. I don't like it. I'd rather have another unit of Warrior Sons, but he's
Maybe
been practicing a lot, so he clearly has an idea with them.
maybe this is like I'm gonna stand and get shot at list, and actually it has enough sustain within the units that it can just weather the storm. Um, which will be interesting. It forces the Night's Watch player to actually have to push, which is actually one thing the Night's Watch are not good at. They're not good at pushing things that don't die off objectives because they can put a lot of damage out, but they don't have big threats that they can just push in. Because conscripts ultimately tie things up, but want to be on the objectives first. They don't want to be you on the objective as a defensive unit.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just designed as, look, I'm going to get shot 5 times around by crossbowmen, but this list
Yeah.
can handle it. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to Siege on Pike, I beat Night's Watch twice by doing that. I didn't kill a single unit in either game. I didn't come close to killing a single unit in either game. I just got to the objectives first and stayed there. And that's all I did. So it's a legit strategy. I just don't like the 7 activations myself.
Yeah.
Let's see how he goes.
Got Mame Jamie, which I think is a great addition for 1 point. Very
Yeah,
good.
it is.
He's got Gregor list, just something I've seen before, but double Halb, double Poor Fellow Hedge Knights. Limited on the Gregor keywords there. He's just looking to push it and kill things. And
That's anti-Mother of Dragons.
yeah,
That's not too dissimilar to what I would put together for Mother of Dragons myself.
Yeah. I think we discussed this. I think I'd probably drop out one of the Halberdiers, maybe, or drop a point somewhere, maybe Tyrion, to take a second Hedge Knight. Ideally, try and find the points for a second Hedge Knight or something like that. But yeah, cool. Wop, interesting there. We got Blood Raven. Him's taking Lannisters as well, running Tyrion and Tywin.
Yeah, all entirely predictable.
Yeah, and that is the more popular Tyrion build, triple Poor Fellow, double Warrior Sun champions. With the he's limited. He's gone Pycelle, Sparrow, Tycho, so he's gone mass healing rather than like pushing down the panic healing. It's fair enough.
That's what I went for as well. Yeah, I agree with that. If you're going against Night's Watch, you just can't rely on a panic fail. Definitely not. You can't concentrate on multiple panic fails. And this list specifically doesn't actually care that much about crown control when you look at the actual cards. So I rate this list. That's my go-to anti-Night's Watch list.
And it's
the weekend on Python, not amazing, but is about one of the best things that you can get.
Tywin with Poor Fellow, double Red Cloak, Warrior Sun Gregor, and Sparrow Pycelle Joffrey combo. Yeah, great. We've got Ben from Swindon. Ben, great guy, by the way. I played against him the other day. Really nice guy to play against. Really pleasurable experience. Lovely game. And yeah, is really kind of like getting keen to play more games as well. So yeah,
playing
always
Barrows.
Games. Playing Barrows.
Yep.
Eldon.
Crag going old school with Starks.
Crag's a relatively unknown individual across the international community. I've played against him. He's a really nice guy again. And he's gone for Great John with the classic. It's becoming a classic, isn't it? Zerka Mormont Vet combo.
Berserkers, Mormont Vet. Is there anything else other than a Stark Bowman with a Cranagman Warden? They are the only units that exist.
Twice.
That is the only units that exist.
Can we just point out this is proper point guard stuff. You've got Dervishes Rob and Flayed Men with Greywind running point guards for fucking Cranagman Warden Bowman. They're just running around like headless chicken in front, tanking stuff, while the Bowman just rain hell down. And he goes for the double NCU, not triple, with Walder as well. Like this is just piling pain. I don't like it, but you know what? I
hate Walder.
This is literally like if you're not careful, my Bowman is shooting you 6 times around. Fucking live with it. I think that's gonna be a fun list to play.
Yeah, it's a much more fun, dynamic variant of the Night's Watch.
Yeah,
like gunline. It's just like dynamic Night's Watch gunline.
Should we have a look at Nasara's lists, Ryoku?
I mean, Mickey, we can't go through 32 lists.
No, we
Like,
can't.
you know,
We can't go 32 through 32 players list. We will have a look at this though. He's gone for a Stannis Renly pick, right? Stannis, he's gone for mixed cavalry with
into
BBG.
the stag.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and Flayed Men with Shira Davos Tycho. Not sure.
Big doubt on that list.
Might be okay. See. He then runs a Renly side. Renly Rose Knights, Stags, Wardens, Flayed Men.
Has he gone double 7 activations?
Double 7. Which
Not
feels
a
like
fan.
the only way you can play Baratheons, to be fair. At
Yeah, I know. I've done a lot of Baratheon list building, but like, no, not a fan.
Bron Wardens. Can we just shout out for Bron Wardens?
2+ save. Big.
Let's go. He runs Melisandre. And Jaqen. Of course, Jaqen now copies the influence of all of Melisandre's abilities. That was confirmed in the FAQ. So he actually runs double Melisandre. Maybe he just wants to be a dick. If this is be a dick list, like, I'm happy with that. Like, that might be really
Fair
good.
enough.
And then Loras.
I mean, at least it's memes. It's memes be a dick, but you
know. Corrin playing Jon Snow Donald. Corrin doesn't run watch captains in his lists, in his Jon Snow list. I've seen his Jon Snow has played against it. And he's going for double veterans with Donald Noy. That man is going to be playing in a defensive-ass game. So yeah. We've got Jack Daniels Prince Whiskey playing Lannisters again. Tywin Gregor. Bolton.
Bolton's skincare gone Lannisters. That's rogue.
What have we not noticed so far?
There's
no
neutrals.
And
there's been a Targ. No free folk.
No free folk.
0 free folk.
Alright. We see another Stark, Scabman. We see Dakota picking up Greyjoys. Brett taking Night's Watch. Oh, look, he's taking Othel and John. Oh, look, Othel conscripts. Build a crossbow.
Yeah.
Anyway. Spleen, Greyjoy. So Spleen, Stark, Gamma, Greyjoy. Lyca. Finally bring it in as the free folk. Mance, Tormund. I've got to have a look at his lists. Mance, Raiders, Raid Leader Raiders, Spearwives. Yep. So this is the this is a list that I've kind of like played around with a little bit. I think it's a good list. It runs the same. He runs exactly the same NCU package I run as well. Like it is the NCU package, and he runs something very similar. What I don't see is I don't see any Follows of Bone coming out from Lyca, which I think is interesting. I think Follows of Bone are actually good as an offensive unit. I've been getting a lot of mileage out of them, so I think it's interesting that he's not gone for that. But he's picked up the look. I mean, look at this for free folk units, right? We talk about a change from 1.6 and looking back at history. Just appreciate the number of attachments we're seeing in this list. Every single unit has an attachment, and only 2 of them get discounts.
Yeah. Just for WAP, I don't have any problems with people running Night's Watch. I really genuinely don't. I don't have any problems with people running Night's Watch. I actually want Night's Watch to not just win but dominate this tournament because they deserve to, and it highlights the problem. There's a sigh because Brett has been the most vocal proponent of the fact that Night's Watch are beatable. And also, he specifically outright stated he didn't play Night's Watch anymore because they're overpowered. But here he is playing Night's Watch.
Like, it doesn't surprise me. Like, if we find like Claw, I know Claw was playing Night's Watch back in 1.6. Like, if we go and find Bob, he was playing.
Deoxys, by the way, there we skipped him, but he's playing Baratheons. He's been giving it a lot of chat that he thinks Baratheons can go far. He has not put his money behind winning at all, but he's got he's gone for the Stormcrow meme with the boldness and courage from a pikeman. Okay, yeah, I mean,
and then
sure.
he's playing 8 points for old Rose Knights. um, so yeah, sure, whatever. And then his Axel, Queensmen, Axel,
Is
Noble
it
Inflamed Men,
is it
Davos
7 or 8
Stormthrone,
activations?
seven, seven.
No, 8.
No, this was only seven.
1, 2. Oh no, there's loads of attachments. Made me think that the list looked really long.
Yeah. That's actually I've thought about something similar to this with Axel. I do think Axel's probably quite a good commander to run. I think Axel's a secret power pick for Baratheon. I don't know if that means it's good though. That's the problem. Uh, yeah. But yeah, if Bob was running, like Bull Command Bob is running Othel John, like
Yeah,
this again doesn't surprise me, right? It just doesn't surprise me. But I'm not that bothered by that because I know Bob plays Night's Watch and he doesn't say. Like he's been wanting to play Night's Watch against people. He wants to play them.
yeah.
It's different when someone's saying, "Oh, they're overpowered. Oh, we should ban them from events." In one hand, and then is also saying they're beatable and like not overpowered in the other. That's the problem. No, not holding our punches here today.
Aussies going Lannisters there. Dark Angel. Any other big names did we skip?
Um,
Is that Francesco? I saw the Brazilian flag, and he's
yeah,
the
yeah.
only
Francesco
Brazilian.
been quite
Francesco's back.
been quite
Nice one.
quiet.
Bringing Starks.
Yeah. Quite quiet. He's running like Eddard as well. He's running. Yes, Eddard's on a guard. Love to see it.
Nice.
Love to see it. Good unit, great unit. And he's running a great Jonas, which I'm guessing is, yeah. He's not running Mormont Vets though. Interesting. Going heavy on the Wolves. Should we have a look at Lee? Should we have a look at Euron? I know he's in chat.
There's another Greyjoy and another Greyjoy.
Yep. Multiple Greyjoys.
There we go. Yeah, Lokabri. He was saying before, oh no, there's a second Greyjoy player. I mean, I guess you guys don't really have access to the actual numbers. Greyjoys are super popular, like so popular, like so many submissions. People love Greyjoys, and more than that, I think they're even buoyed by the fact that they're right in the middle. Like people love the fact that they're right in the middle. They're playable. They can win. They can lose. You feel like you're earning your wins. Great balance leads to people wanting to play the game.
Yep. 100%. So yeah. Size Match coming back with his double awful. Running the awful mix build and the awful the kill build.
I know. They both seem mixed. They both have
So
ranges
no,
in?
the awful build is
Awful
hunters.
in ranges, and the other
hunters,
one was
the other one's awful conscripts, double builder crossbowmen. Right, gone for
Rangers.
Rangers.
Again, it's Rangers.
Yeah,
It's Rangers.
The mix there, but it's very similar to the other build which we see triple conscript.
It's just one with a scorpion and one without.
Yeah. Hey, we've got this Sir Jacob Glace. I think he's a relatively unknown player from Wales. I think he's running Free Folk. He's running Rattleshirt Commander. Yes. For the 4/6 to NCU. Ooh. Then the Mance mix build. Oh, I don't dislike that. I don't dislike that build. Although I'd take out Thenzum, replace it with FOB.
Is that 8 or 9 activations? 1, 2,
9.
9.
Six on field. Which I think is a good spot for a Mance list. Although I will say, I think that Free Folk do get a lot of mileage out their attachments. I think Harmer specifically.
Oh, yeah, and Lucky's right. You saved yourself a prize there, Mickey. There's no neutrals.
Yep.
But they weren't going to win one anyway because they're not a faction. So you can't win best in faction for a non-existent faction.
What is interesting, though, is there's only 3 Targaryen.
Yeah.
Right, just quick numbers.
Way more Lannisters than Targs.
There's 3 Targaryen. There's 1.
And what's the Night's Watch count?
2, 3, 4. Hang on. 5, 6. 6 Greyjoys. Healthy amount. It's a fifth of the field. Lannisters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Lannisters as well. Night's Watch, I think there's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 5. 5 Lannisters. There's a nice healthy split as well.
Sorry, was that Lannisters or Night's Watch?
Night's Watch, sorry. 6 Greyjoy, 6 Lannister, 5 Night's Watch.
Yeah.
So healthy
Night's
so
Watch
far.
has become a dirty word.
Yep. Only 3 Targaryen. Starker's down at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 Stark, so it's again fairly even. Free folk, I think there's only 1, 2, 3 free folk. So free folk and Targ lagging behind the rest, but everything else is
Yeah.
sitting in that kind of like healthy 5 and 6 range, which is that's exactly what the tournament wanted to kind of do, was to promote more variety, and it looks like it has done that to some extent. It is disappointing that no one entered as neutral. I'll say that straight away. It's very disappointing, and I think it tells you everything that you need to know about the state of neutrals, in that there are lots of neutral units being picked up in these like those lists. We just looked at a sample of them. Neutral NCUs and neutral units are being picked up regularly. The neutral tactics deck and the combination of neutral options, though, are just not good enough. They're just really not. Like, if this, a tournament which, if you want to push the boat out, take neutrals, where it doesn't really matter if you lose games that much, because it's not really that important. What important is you can at least do okay with the faction, and neutrals just aren't picked up at all.
Yeah.
And this is an event that literally entices it. I don't know what to say after that.
Weasel. Yeah, I mean, it's a great faction balance. I'm really nervous that Night's Watch don't win. And some people are gonna like start saying, look, this is proof that like things are fine. And also that they're gonna say, like, look how balanced this game is. Look at like the selection, like look how wide and varied the field is. And it's like, I mean, maybe there are some individuals here who absolutely 100% would have always gone this way. There are some individuals who are choosing not to play Night's Watch because they don't want that pressure, stigma, that gameplay. They don't like, they think that they're way overpowered and they don't want to win that way. And most importantly, people will not give value to the fact that the tournament has worked very, very hard to give you reasons. This being run in the way it is has given as many possible reasons for people to not just play the most powerful factions. Best in Faction Awards, being rated, being just a tournament on stats already is quite a big thing. I know in my mind more than a lot of other people's, but it's already a very big thing for what your rating is worth. All factions are viable that way because of stats. And as soon as you put the prize not in first place, but on best in faction, suddenly there is no benefit to playing the top factions, right? I hope that Night's Watch win.
Yep.
I hope that, you know what? I hope that Night's Watch take the top 5 spots. Honestly, I do. They won't, but like, I hope that Night's Watch are like 3 of the top 5 myself. Just because it means that we haven't hidden a problem and made the popular knowledge around a problem less like more murky. I hope that we don't like effectively provide disinformation around the topic by creating a high profile event and then having it not be won by Night's Watch. But I hope that those who win with Night's Watch don't ever try and tell the people in the middle of the table that they're better players than them, when, in my opinion, not at all true.
Yep. I will say as well, and I think this is quite relevant as well. I think that if your local tournament scene and if your tournaments in general are relying on bans to get good faction spread,
very topical.
It ain't true.
Talking about it all day.
You know, it's just simply not true. You don't need bans to do it. Do you want the evidence? Right here.
But not everybody can offer Best in Faction awards for
No,
a 10-person tournament, can they, Mickey? So
no, you're right. You can't. But the point is that we've solved a problem. Inverted solved a problem without actually addressing the problem at all.
Yeah, I think the thing is that whatever form it takes, TOs right now have to work very hard to provide incentives of any form that aren't related to winning the tournament. Whatever your incentives are
Doesn't
up to
matter.
you.
Yeah.
Whatever your community wants, it can be like massive sportsmanship prizes, it can be painting prizes, it can just be like rating each other's lists in terms of a prize of like how playable they are and like how enjoyable the list is to play, never mind the opponent. So you could take it out of like the sportsmanship aspect or whatever you want, right? But you should not, you should be doing everything you can to move the emphasis away from wanting to just dominate people with Night's Watch.
Yes.
Because I mean, I've always said that like you can't balance the game. Like we can't balance the game for Simon. Hard bans, I think, are a terrible idea. I've always said that. I will stick by it now, even though the number of things that are ruining the game are small and big outliers. I still say you don't ban them because it always does create a next best thing. There always is another problem down the line. Yes, we can make the game a bit better by banning it when there are extreme outliers, but it's not going to suddenly become balanced. And if your play group and your community are so obsessed with like, this is OP and I won't play against it, then it's more of a cultural problem than like an actual balance problem in my perspective, because they will always find a thing that they don't want to play against.
You'll notice that one of the few things, I mean, me and Carlo talk about the strength of Night's Watch, and we do say that they are clearly not balanced. We have not said whatsoever that Night's Watch are, you know, literally like unbeatable, unplayable against anything like that. We've never indicated that. They are certainly the best faction and the best lists. They can provide something which is clearly the strongest.
Yeah.
But if people are saying like I don't want to play against Night's Watch because it's a negative play experience, ultimately that's down to the individual. And that's down to the individual communities as well, of which everyone here is a member. It really would be upon you as your individual communities, and anyone who's watching this, of course, not live, anyone who's just watching this recorded, leave your comments and thoughts below of what you think. But it really is on you to actually take these things to your take these things to your community and say, look, yes, it's not nice, it exists, but deal with it, because it's not just going to disappear because you ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's not how these things work. Like, that's, to put it bluntly, that's the Simon approach, and that's what got us here in the first place. They ignore the problem, then they go, all right, we've redesigned everything, rather than balancing the things that were unbalanced, and we're back at square one. That attitude is what created the circumstance we're in now. Deal with it, face it, say, look, I don't enjoy playing against it. Some people do. Go through the terrible things, go through the pain, go through the unpleasantness that it is. And I've done it. I've played Night's Watch, and I'll be super honest, fucking hated playing it as well. It was shit. Right? I played like crap. This is the thing I'll say as well. My playing skill went down because I actually played badly. And that's not a good thing for me. Like, I came off the back of my last 2 games playing Night's Watch with both losses, and I came out of them thinking, like, honestly, I'm a shite player. That's what I felt like. I felt I'm shite. And I felt like I was playing like utter garbage. And it's because I had this air of just, it doesn't fucking matter anymore, right? That's always going to lose you games. It doesn't matter how strong your faction is. That attitude is what's going to lose you a game. It doesn't matter what you do, and that's on me massively. And I didn't play the game for basically 3 weeks because and I was playing every day before, or at least as many times as I could, because I just didn't give a shit, and that's really bad. That's an independent individual thing. That's an individual attitude thing that I have to tackle and come to face that actually Night's Watch are just part of the game. Play against it. Have to deal with it. It might not be nice, but I'll show up to my event still.
What makes an interesting statement / question?
Yep.
It's phrased as a question, but really it's a statement, which is that the tourney isn't going to be nearly as competitive without, as it would have been, without having price manipulation. Presumably, price manipulation is we're providing majority of prizes for best in faction, which means that effectively we're almost subsidizing you playing less popular factions, or
Right.
subsidizing you playing factions that aren't necessarily have no chance, no realistic chance of winning the tournament. Comes down really comes down to this question: what does competitive mean? I still believe there are, except for a couple of players who've dropped out, but not because of that at all, there are a whole number of very competitive, very good players playing a less efficient faction, a less efficient commander to the best of its possible abilities. That, to me, is absolutely competition. That is a competitive event. That is the essence of competition, taking something and trying to play it and perform it as best as it can, right? Our Deep Math playing Baratheons, Ariakas playing Baratheons. I mean, everybody's gone for Baratheons because they're the bottom of the table and it's the biggest challenge, right? But like anybody picking up Starks, anybody who's chosen to stay away from Night's Watch and instead has gone, mid-table. I personally at all believe that they're taking any kind of easy way out, where I don't believe that they are trying to say like, oh, well, I got 3-2, but like at least I played like an off meta faction or something like that. They're here to compete. They're here to do as well as possible. They're here to compete for a slightly different prize than the ones that are going for Night's Watch, because they're competing for two different best in factions. They are still both competing to win the tournament. I believe that everybody who picked Night's Watch has a better chance of doing it, but it's still absolutely competition in my mind. Will there be less close games? That's possible, because it is possible that Night's Watch will blow people out. I don't think that that's fair to say that that makes the whole event less competitive, though. It doesn't, in my mind. It may not be the pinnacle or exactly representative of the pinnacle that the meta could achieve. But honestly, I'm sorry, there has never ever been a tournament that has, because realistically, if a tournament, well, actually, there has. It was called the World Cup and it was called Masters. When you looked at them, they were the pinnacle of what the meta is. When you realize they are 50% one faction,
Yeah.
and then two other factions get picked.
Well, it was
And
basically 50-50 split, wasn't it, between two
it's
factions?
pretty much a 50. It's a 50-50 split between two factions, and that is the ultimate conclusion of deciding that that is what competitive play is. To me, competitive play has nothing to do with picking the most powerful faction. I believe myself one of the most competitive players in the world. I take it incredibly seriously. I think about the game continuously. And to me, in my mind, being one of the most competitive players in the world, I look at the top 2 to 3 factions on that list and I say, I'm never playing them. I'm playing the ones below it. That's how I prove that I'm a good player.
Yep.
So
100%.
I counter your statement that there being less Night's Watch makes it a less competitive event.
What you'll find is, if people are playing in a truly and I'm going to use the term ultra competitive event, is people will be driven towards Night's Watch, not because they believe themselves to be more competitive, but simply because it's easier. Like Carlo was saying, it's easier to pilot that because you know you're going to have to play into a lot of other that stuff, right? That's what happened in the World Cup. That's what happened in Masters. Everyone picked up Starks and Free Folk, and a bit of Mother of Dragons, because basically, if you weren't playing those factions, you statistically were not going to have a chance.
No.
And that's got nothing to do with the competitiveness of the players, and is about how the particular event shapes up. Simple fact of the matter is that just isn't going to happen in your local event. If you have to ban offal, if you have to ban watch captains for these events and things like this, you need to ask yourself the question. This is where I was trying to allude to in a slightly facetious way, I guess. Is that if you're having to ban these things to get people to even turn up, like, is that even a game and a game state that is healthy or good or balanced or anything like that? Like, that's really negative that people are in a position, and comes back to your community, that the community that you have fostered as a TO, community that you're building and allowing to exist, is one where people are just like, oh, you're allowing this thing in Night's Watch, I just won't turn up. Like, that's really unhealthy. And is actually completely against what stats was built for. The whole point of
It
stats.
is. It is. But it is a really difficult subject
Oh,
because
horribly
the
difficult.
game is going through such a difficult time. So everybody has to do what they can. But I think the real thing is that it's an incredibly short-term solution to ban things because it then becomes the norm.
Yep.
You erode everybody's trust in the game, rather than trying to create a system by which people have reasons to self-regulate. Like I'm not a fan of people self-regulating in terms of like, because competitive players will always push their faction to the furthest. We shouldn't expect people to self-regulate without any incentive, right? But there are a whole ton of incentives that can be offered, from simply running it on stats, and your ELO rating is massively incentivized by it, through to the prizes that you run, through to the very soon to be reintroduced ELO tournaments where your incentive is that you're more likely to win the tournament without them, through to other stuff. I think that bans is so far down that list, and it's such a short-term solution because then it becomes your norm. It becomes, well, okay, what do we ban next time? Do you know what I mean? Like, or those things are now just banned forever until they get something specific, like a New Balance patch that allows them back in. Whereas, who knows? Like, there could be releases over the next 3 months, 6 months, which start to bridge the gap, start to make those things not be such massive outliers. I hope not, because actually there's a solid chunk of the game which is really balanced and really good, and then there's outliers at the top, which is why I understand that people gravitate towards bans, because they feel like there's a line that they can draw under it and say, this is too good, everything else is enjoyable. But when you're practically including an entire faction above that line, it's really, it's an extreme solution.
Yeah. And for me is that, and Leet says it there, you create division. Like, I'm under no, like, there is no bones whether or not Knights of Watch is unpleasant to play against. It's unpleasant to play, to be honest. It's There's no bones of that decision. There's no bones to that discussion. It can be for people. I understand that, but you can't treat that as whether or not you're gonna ban it in an event. Yeah, sure. Kitchen table game, you playing casually with your mates, different case. Like, that is completely different, and you decide that between your friends. Like, gentlemen's agreements at your local, just chill up and play a game, is a thing that people do. We're not regulating that at all. We don't even want to regulate that. That's down to you guys playing the game. Yeah, do what you think's fun. But in a tournament structure, yeah, we're talking about minor tournaments here. But if everyone just plays tournaments at their local level, and it's like, oh yeah, we've always got watch captains and say offal banned, and then the national tournament comes around, it's like, oh, is offal's banned, right? No, watch captains are banned. No, they're not. Oh, I won't turn up then.
Yeah. Then you basically just you're insulating yourself from the rest of the community, because you're effectively playing homebrew rules, right? You're playing
Yeah,
playing organized way of, we all agree that this is the changes we're going to make to the game for our local meta, our local gaming group. And you're isolating yourself away from everybody else who's not choosing to make exactly the same decisions.
Game
Presumably,
growth.
like,
What happens if you just rock up at a tournament? Game growth. You don't really know the rules of the tournament. You know there's an event. You didn't hear much about it, but you think, oh, I might turn up for that games day or something. You turn up and you go, oh, I've got my Night's Watch army. Is it? Oh no, all of that stuff banned. You're not allowed it.
yeah.
Is that really the introduction that I want to the game? Being the first time I introduced to myself to a community, and the first thing they say is that stuff's banned. I don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's tough. People feel like they feel like they're making themselves and everybody else happy. So who are we to say they're wrong?
Exactly. We're not.
But you're
You're not, but you're wrong. And this is the thing. Do whatever you guys want to do. Like, as much as we will be loud with vocal, we've got a platform we can talk about these things. But we will talk about these things because it is what we look at. It is what we measure on stats. It's what we're trying to understand. But like, we've always been massive proponents of just don't ban stuff. And what I'm very worried, it's where we talk about the community side, the community rules, which I know the Germans have been doing a lot of stuff for. German's community. Again, we're in this situation, if we're not careful, where you're like, right, all this stuff is dangerous, and instead what we're going to do is ban it, and we're going to change it. And then all the people who haven't suffered, you've only got to go to Facebook and see that the number of people in the community who think it's fine is massive.
Yeah.
Are you really wanting to ostracize them? What you want to do is educate them on why is it perhaps bad, get them to experience it and go, right, okay, so this is bad. How do you feel like you want to deal with that?
Bartender makes an interesting point, which is quite relevant to loads of things that have been, or like quite a few tournaments that have popped up. Is this Highlander event, right? It's even got a cool name. It's even got a cool name. Yeah, Highlander. There can only be one. I do think I think it's quite nice, and I'm not into limitations, but blanket rule like that feels much better than saying, oh, we're going to limit this, we're going to limit that. Like, it's just blanket saying this tournament is anti-spam of all kind, right?
Yep.
So you're blanket wiping out triple poor fellow lists, triple conscript lists. You're wiping out putting the same unit on the board multiple times because it's just hyper efficient. And you do it across the board in a very even manner. I don't care if you're Baratheons and you're bottom of the table and you want to run 2 Wardens. Nope, not happening. Or your Night's Watch and you want to run double conscripts, triple conscripts, double expos with double watch captaining. It's all the same. You're only allowed one of everything. I do think it's interesting. I think it's a huge failing of the unique characters that exists. Unique characters should be unique enough and powerful enough that they're crafting individual units around themselves, and you shouldn't want to be spamming things. But that's come back to this whole thing that like they've massively reduced the cost of attachments. We didn't even really look at it in those lists. There's no fucking attachments. Some of them
are attachment heavy, and some of them just go literally empty attachments. You see classic Greyjoys, we know, very effective attachments. 3.1 point, right? The known thing. None.
Nope, none.
2? He's gone for 2 unique ones as well.
Interesting, yeah.
Interesting. None. You know,
just
and
like
1 pointers. 1 point known to have a very strong ability for 1 point as well. A known strong attachment.
Specifically, these aren't characters. They're just generic attachments, right? Yeah. That's their real problem. They're not giving named characters enough that you care about them, enough for you to want to craft a unit around them. You put a unit on the board, and then you decide whether or not a character is worth having in them.
I just point out, though, that, I mean, he's got a Stag Knight Noble. Shout out there.
He does, in Stag Knights of all things, so.
Big man. But yeah, it's all the same thing. Mormont Veterans, we've seen that one before. Brannaman Wardens. It is, yeah, you're right, it's always the same thing. There are some people who've got a mix. The vast majority of these lists, just going through them. Actually, I will give a shout out to Ardeep. This is Stannis, Bronn, Red Priestess, Davos. That feels like a good mix. Right?
So, I mean, I do believe that Baratheons do okay, not the best. I mean, they're still a rough faction to play with in general, but Baratheons do okay into the Highlander format because their lists, they start with like, I want one of this, one of this, and one of this, and then like, what else can I fit in? Their characters almost feel impactful, but their real problem is that like they're not impactful enough, not like Greyjoy ones.
Yeah.
Unlike Stark, Starks do very badly out of the Highlander format because they have a couple of specific things. Mormont Veteran, Cranigman Warden, Bowman and Berserkers, specifically putting those things in. They are very built around spamming the only few efficient things they have right now, it feels. We'll see how they do in the tournament. Not seen Starks perform well at all yet, so we'll see whether or not those spam lifts actually work for them. But yeah, like I think the Highlanders a good blanket limitation to apply. I don't. When you draw the first round,
I'm going to. For some reason, say it's not locked. Oh, locked tournament.
You lock the lists, not the event.
I will draw the first round. That was the plan.
Are you gonna? How are you gonna? What's your game mode?
Good question. What is the game mode? I specifically said that every game mode was available. There is no outlaws on the game modes because Storms of Swords, which I think it should be a given, is
That it's in. That it's the final. Yeah.
It's the final. Yeah. No.
Whoever's number one seed going into it gets to be defender.
My computer will be a bit laggy, guys, on the stream. I do apologize. I'm gonna do it properly. Live on stream so you can see it done as well, so you know I'm not just hacking. I am totally hacking. I'm making this up as I go along. This is going to go terribly. Doobie-doobie-doo. Anyway. Yeah, so we will work it out. What game mode do you want to come up with, Carlo?
So I love a bit of controversy. I love people getting upset. Love separating the men from the boys. Actually, love a secret mission. Either of them to come up first.
Completely agree.
Because also it's better for the slightly more controversial, controversial game modes to come up earlier rather than later. Not that I think that. I mean, I really, yeah. What can I say? I think that they're great game modes myself, and I think that the best player always wins. I also think that an event like this, you could meet great players in any round. So half the people are going to be out of because this is a perfect 32 5 rounds.
Yep.
The winner will have won
every game.
5 games out of 5. Half of the tournament are going to lose the tournament in this first round. So, it's a good thing that they can also play for their best in faction. But every round matters just as much as the others. But people seem to fixate on this idea that like certain modes have to finish the tournament and that they have to be like Game of Thrones and Dance of Dragons. And I can sort of see it. Nobody wants to end the tournament on controversy. But I don't think that any modes are that controversial.
Fire and Blood. Because it's just shit game
Okay.
mode. It's just badly designed. I'm sorry.
It's just shit.
As is Here We Stand. I think it's actually fairly shit as well.
There are better and worse game modes, guys, but
Yeah. But they are what they are. Are we ready then? So the first game mode, got all of them in hilariously, is gonna be
if it's Storm of Swords, we're keeping it.
Dance of Dragons. Yeah, it's a popular one. It's a good game mode. It's become a classic. For a long time, it felt that Dance of Dragons wasn't actually played that often.
No.
And yeah, actually, I think it's become a tournament staple. I think a lot of people really enjoy it. So yeah.
I think it's the most widely accepted mode.
I think that the honed and ready as well. I think people really like the effectively modified Game of Thrones. I think that's quite a popular one as well. They're probably my two favorite. I think of them. Yeah, yeah. Right then. So honed and ready. Sorry, Dance of Dragons takes the slot. So over that round, we are going for first game mode. Dance of Dragons. Avoid club pairings. There will be some club pairings, I think.
Yeah. If you spout it wrong or differently to each other, then tough shit.
Basically, it means that some of those Night's Watch players are not going to be matching up into each other. Those are the main ones. Swiss round pairing. Let's go. We'll have a quick look through the pairings and then we'll do our final thoughts and stuff. So, I think we're going to see many mirrors. I think it'll do quite a good job avoiding quite a few mirrors with a
It
good
doesn't try
faction
to.
spread. No, I know, but do you think it will just like naturally?
Yeah, it should do.
With the faction
You know,
spread.
you've only got like a 1 in 6 chance to face a mirror, considering considering that outside of yourself, most of them, most people just aren't your faction. The worst was 6, right? The highest choice was 6.
Yeah.
I feel like that shouldn't have taken that long, but I'm 99% sure that that button works.
Maybe it is.
I mean, other people's tournaments work.
There you go.
So
A great thing to display there. It's fine. It's probably just loading. Probably because I'm streaming about 3 different things at the same time. That's probably not very good.
yeah.
Um.
So, yeah. So what it does is it submits the round. The round will be created, and then it tries to ask for all the games that it just created, which I think your computer is currently having a meltdown about because it's still running TTS, running a live stream, and streaming to me on Discord.
Yes. That's why. By the way, in case you didn't know, after a year of all of this, the way that I have to do this for Carlo is I stream my screen to Carlo. You can see what's going on, and then I have to obviously stream it to you guys. This is why the internet was like played up that many moons ago. There is really limited like stuff that we do. It is not complicated what we do in terms of prep for Tourney Ground or anything like that. We do not joke if when I just say it kind of just happens.
Locabri says he hopes to play players from all over the world. After telling us really nicely that the most important thing is that you come away with more friends than you came to the table with. I think that he might change his mind about. Have you refreshed the page, Mickey?
I have.
Let's just
Yeah.
definitely 100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I refreshed it.
He hopes to play players from all over the world. He might regret that as soon as he starts having scheduling difficulties with people from all around the world. But it's great. It's great in theory, isn't it?
America and Australia, man. Like, as much as I love some of the Americans and Australians, it's a nightmare organizing games. Like, it's a proper nightmare. Right. This is definitely my fault for running too many streams at the same time. I will let this go through and sort itself out. We'll have a look. Should we have a look at it next week? Because it will sort itself out while we wait. But it might take a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So that leads us on to the end. It's been a year, Carlo. The last thing I wanted to touch on, right, is going all the way back to like where we started a year ago through to like now, basically. Can you believe that we've managed to keep this going for as long as we did? I thought you'd have killed me by
now. Yeah, I mean, like, it's had its peaks and troughs. It's had its numbers wax and wane. It's not exactly been continual bigger and better all the time. But I think there's a really solid core community around A Song of Ice and Fire stats, around like some of the like smaller Discord servers. The Patreon Patreons of A Song of Ice and Fire Stats is a particularly close community, a lot of good chat there. And that's what I keep doing it for. I often wonder what Mickey keeps doing it for, but I keep doing it for the really good close communities that we've created. I know that I've sort of stepped away from TTS, which was in most ways the way that like I got to play with these players. And I know there are lots of people who never got to play against me and have asked me for games and stuff like that. But I just love watching other people play, talk about the game, looking at things that are going on. I've never needed to play to enjoy the game. I like to lurk and watch other people play and kind of learn from their strategies as much as learning from my own. So it's great that we're still here. It's great that we're still doing chats
Yeah.
practically every week.
Yeah. We've missed 2. I counted it. We missed 2 weeks. One we had a week off, and one of them it was the Lannister Visions in the Flames where my internet gave up the ghost.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I remember.
We had like a 20-second live video, right?
Yeah, we did. That was a nightmare to deal with. But yeah, there you go.
It's been a hard year in a lot of ways for the game, for the site, for the community. That we're still here says a lot. Says that we'll be able to go through a lot. But some people will get lost and left along the way. I just hope that the community grows in all forms.
So going back to all the way back to Tourney Ground number 1, right? We got, roughly speaking, about 70 hours of watch time. Approximated. I haven't got the. I'm not going to just say the exact number out because it's a pain in the arse. 70 hours of watch time for Tourney Ground number 1, across about 200 views, just over 200 views. Yeah. We go back now to Tourney Ground more recently. 42 was easily our most successful. What was Tourney Ground 42? Do you remember that one? I do.
Was it Night's Watch Vision and Flames? Or
No, come on.
No? 10 weeks ago? Oh, it'll be 2021 balance drop, right?
Yep, the 2021 balance drop. By far our most watched Tourney Ground. 763 hours of watch time, by the way, in that episode. It's just nuts because it's a long episode. 1,400 people watching it. But yeah, even to what last week we were looking at even a healthy 150 hours, which if you break it down for a 2-hour thing, it's about 75 viewers watch the whole way through. Pretty good, which is respectful. That's what we can go for. So yeah, it's good to keep it going. It's good to keep the whole thing up. It's good to keep providing this to people, and literally just keep enjoying it and I enjoy these sessions. You enjoy them. Next are rants.
Zoned 101's asking for us to do a TSL summary. Yeah, it sort of could happen. It takes a lot of manual work because it's not on the site. They are on the site, but yeah, it's been a long time since we sat and plugged them into a spreadsheet. It's very boring work.
I was gonna do it this last weekend, and I'll be super honest with you. I couldn't be asked. I was going to very much do it. Very much spend some time and share the stuff around, but I really not be bothered. Not that it was not probably a good use of time, but I just had other things I wanted to do instead. So yeah. All right. This it turns out that streaming lots does really harm the old sites making tournaments. You should really don't stream while doing this. In hindsight, should look to before we started, then ran the round, then started the stream. That would have been good. That's my fault. Anyway, if you want to go on the site, if you check out the rounds, it'll probably be ready. Literally, I'll disconnect and it'll be, oh, there it is, straight away. So check in the next 5 minutes or so if you haven't already. If you're watching it recorded, it'll already be up, so go and check it out now. We'll love to see you all again next week. We'll love to keep you updated. We'll check in with the NRG event, see how that's going. Between now and then, guys, Carlo, we finish it there for a year of 20 rounds?
Yep. All good.
You said you wanted 3 hours, just shy, just for you guys out there. So there we go, guys. We'll see you next Monday for everything else new that goes on, all the news, all the tournaments, and all your local goings on. Take it easy.
See you next year.
Ready, aim, release! Anyone see my mammoth?